I'll open the meeting at 9:05 a.m. and thank you for your attendance. I'd just like to record a condolence about the loss of Vaughan Johnson. It is with great sadness that we've heard about his passing. He was a very decent Queenslander who served in the Legislative Assembly of Queensland. He will be deeply missed, and on behalf of Maranoa Regional Council to his family, I pass on our deepest sympathy. Okay, moving on with the agenda. Do we have anyone to confirm the minutes of the ordinary meeting on the 14th of December 2022?
There's feedback in the audio too. I don't know if anyone else can hear that.
Feedback through that.
It's like the mayor's echoing.
I wonder if this is too close.
What, did you hear it on the speaker?
Just turn it down a bit.
I could hear it when he was talking.
Is that better?
I can't hear it now.
Okay, so do we have anyone to confirm the minutes of the 14th? Councillor McMullen.
Something that's coming from the front.
There you go.
Just speak again.
Yeah, testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3.
I can't hear
There it is. Oh, I think we're hearing it from next door. I think we're hearing it.
Oh.
Excuse me, I'll shut this door. We're hearing it because we can hear it from this end. It's like a repeat.
Mr Mayor, I'll move that the minutes of the ordinary meeting held on 14th of December 2022 be confirmed.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Guthrie. Any opposition? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
I'll abstain from that.
Okay, so that abstention is taken as a vote of 8-1, if I can call for a division. Now, moving on, was there any other minutes or we're straight onto the agenda?
Straight on to the agenda.
Righto. What page have we got there, please?
62.
59.
59,
59,
thank you.
sorry.
Item 8.1, notice to amend resolution OM/11.2022/57.
I've got a declaration.
Okay, please go ahead.
I'll declare a prescribed conflict of interest on item 8.1. The description is notice to amend resolution OM/11.2022/57. The declaring councillor is myself, the person with the interest is myself. The particulars of the interest are that I am a non-executive director with C.2 Maranoa, and this relates to a lease arrangement with that particular entity. As I said, the type of conflict is prescribed conflict of interest, and I'll leave the room while the matter is discussed and voted on.
Okay, do we have a mover? Councillor McMullen.
Mr Mayor, I'll move that Council repeal resolution number 0M-11.2022-57 and replace it with, is that the correct one there, Kev? Pursuant to section 2361B(2) of the Local Government Regulation 2012 Queensland, grant a trustee lease to Maranoa Country University Centre, being a not-for-profit community organisation, without tender or auction for a term of 3 years, commencing on the 14th of May 2024 and expiring on 13th of May 2027 on the following terms. A, the terms of the trustee lease be not less than the terms included in the existing trustee lease that commenced on the 14th of May 2021 and expires on 13th of May 2024. B, that the granting of the lease be subject to council being able to obtain required ministerial approval. If ministerial approval cannot be secured, council will consider this matter at an upcoming council meeting. 2, provide a letter of support, reconsider this matter at an upcoming council meeting. 2, provide a letter of support, if required, to any future Commonwealth funding round as continued support of the program. 3, authorise the Chief Executive Officer or delegate to execute the lease and any associated documentation.
Okay, we have a seconder. Councillor Guthrie, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it?
No, hang on, Mr Mayor. Sorry, I missed number 4. Request council's contribution be recognised as part of all relevant promotion and marketing.
So seconder, happy with that?
Yes.
Okay, that's the motion. Does anyone wish to speak? Then we're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
So 8-0. Can we get Councillor O'Neill back, please? Okay, 10.1, Local Government Remuneration Commission schedule commencing 1st of July 2023. I would like to move that Council note the findings of the Local Government Remuneration Commission's review and not make any change to the remuneration for the next period. Do we need anything else, CEO, in there?
Through the chair, no, that qualifies. It certainly instead for the period could be for 1st of July 23 to the 30th of June 24.
Righto. I'll put those dates in there too, please, Cal. Okay, do we have a seconder for that motion?
I have a question.
Please go ahead.
Through you, Mr Mayor, to the CEO. Madam CEO, does this normally come to the table, or does it only come to the table if we're going to not accept the increase?
Look, look through the chair. Most councils actually, councils review this on an annual basis. So regardless of whether they're adopting or not adopting, they do make that resolution each year. The tribunal looks at those remuneration schedules each year with a particular view to keep them current. And so hence councils do look at this on an annual basis.
So it is normal practice to come to the table with a yes or a no?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And it's always come to council, just from my memory, Councillor Taylor, it's always been a council decision.
Okay, I just thought because it's like they decide that this is what's going to happen, that it would be just you're only coming to the table if you don't want that to happen. But no, it comes to the table anyway.
Yeah, because no one can decide that, really. It's got to be all of us that decide what happens. Yeah. Okay, do we have a seconder for the motion? Councillor McMullen. And I'll speak for the motion. I do believe that remuneration is quite generous. I do believe that we're really asked, and there's been changes that make us more strategic. I do believe that councillors can get reimbursed for travel, meals, things they're doing in their line of their work. So I do think this remuneration is reasonable, and I do think it's in council's interest for us to be able to, it is a saving to council, and I think we can put that into better service delivery. Okay, does anyone else wish to speak against the motion? Councillor Taylor.
I've spoken against the motion twice now. I think this might be however long, how many times it's come to the table. I don't think we're doing a service to the community at all, because I believe that even though the people at this table are probably retired, or they have their own business, and probably aren't here for the sake of the money, I think you're still discriminating against those that would like to maybe turn this into a profession or a job, a full-time job, and 69,000, I think it says, is what we're on right now. isn't going to help anybody with one wage and two children. So I just think it's, I don't know how to explain exactly, but I just don't think it's right, and I really don't think that the next people that sit at this table and say yes, I mean, already it's 4% this year, so far from our 69 to our 75, it's $5,689. So by the time somebody else sits at this table and says yes, it's probably going to be $8,000. And then they're going to get hammered and criticised because they took an $8,000 pay rise. So I really think you're doing an injustice to those that follow behind us. So I won't be voting for it.
Okay, does anyone wish to speak for the motion or against the motion? Councillor Hancock.
I too have voted against this, not to put up not to accept the recommendation actually that's been put forward by the Commission for Mayor, Deputy Mayor and Councillors' remuneration. And I voted against this because I think that we aren't being fair to the people who are coming behind us. I think that, whilst at this table we may or may not, we don't know what everybody's individual circumstances are at this table, not need to have an increase. The people who are coming after us, they actually may need it. I think that it is a sad place and a scary place if we set the expectations of people who wish to stand to be a councillor, mayor, that you have to be wealthy to be able to do that. You have to be able to afford to be able to do that, because actually the pay that this council is setting is not in line with the recommendation of the Commission. It is recommended by an outside committee so that it takes the political the political realm away from council, and I think we should go with the recommendation to keep in line so that we are providing the best opportunity to get some really good councillors, some really good leadership around the table into the next election and the next election after that and the next election after that. And I just note that, and I think it's worth noting, because maybe it's consideration, we actually could agree, we could have broken this down individually and voted on the mayor and the deputy mayor and then the councillors. The mayor has decided not to do that with the resolution he's put forward. But the difference in actually the amount of money is the mayor will receive $61,212 more than a councillor, and with that does become extra responsibilities. But it is $61,212 more than a councillor. The deputy mayor receives $12,243 more than a councillor, and with that there is extra responsibility. I do note that. But I just wonder whether it would be worthwhile, if the mayor is happy with what the mayor gets paid, which I actually think should still go up because this is set by an independent commission, we could have voted on this independently so that the gap isn't so big for the next council. So I just thought that was worth noting. And on all this, that is why I'll be voting against this.
Does anyone wish to speak for the motion or against the motion? Councillor O'Neill.
I'll speak against it. As I've expressed, I think this is the fourth time now that, Mayor, you've moved to not accept the recommendation from an external third party that's been engaged by the state government to assess the remuneration of local governments across Queensland. A role that, having met with these people, they take incredibly seriously. The idea behind having the Independent Remuneration Commission was to take the politics out of these decisions sitting around a council table. I expressed this 12 months ago when a similar motion was moved, which is in the report, that this is just sheer populism. I do believe that we should accept the view of the Independent Remuneration Tribunal. We are in the last 12 months of this term of council. There will be a general election held in March of 2024. And I think it's upon us to ensure that we are not burdening an ex-council with these matters, and that's what we're doing. I accept that there may be a view not to increase it the entire amount, but we should move with a percentage to reflect what the economy is doing, what inflation is doing. Holding it continuously, you're moving further and further away from what the reality is. And it's a view of this chamber at the end of the day, which unfortunately is not the goal behind the Local Government Remuneration Commission's involvement in setting the salaries for elected councillors across the state. You know, we talk about the cost of living. Well, the cost of living is going up for everyone. I think this doesn't show any leadership at all by holding this for 4 years. I accepted the first year, but every year after we could have moved a percentage to ensure that the gap was not as large as what it is now. Councillor Hancock has articulated and spelled it out exceptionally well. You know, $60,000 difference now between the mayor and the councillors. You know, that comes as a full-time job for the mayoralty, full-time. And if the remuneration at a Category 3 level deemed that the salary for a mayor, based on the complexities and the issues that we face as a council, the size, all of the factors that come into them setting their recommendation, recommends that the mayor move from 131,000 to 141,000, well, they're the experts in this field, not opinions, not political opinions expressed by people in this room. And so I urge councillors to vote this down and that we revisit this by looking at a reduced percentage to move with inflation, to accept partly what the Remuneration Commission has suggested to us, and that we set our region up for success by having it at the level in which it's been deemed by the third party as we move into the general election of 2024. And on that basis, I will not be supporting the recommendation moved by the Mayor.
Does anybody wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Guthrie.
I'd just like to say that in the term of office that I've been in, I'm a first-term councillor, we've articulated repeatedly about trying to find efficiencies, trying to be more cost-effective, trying to look at things differently. Hand on heart, talking from a personal point of view, I'll be voting in favour of this because I think, for me, I can't speak on behalf of my colleagues, but for me, I would feel very, very uncomfortable being part of an organisation looking to cost save, economise, be more efficient, and then turn around and say, yes, but I need more money, or I think I deserve more money. I'm talking from a personal point of view, not as a group. And the other thing from my point of view, because I will vote based on what I believe is the right thing, coloured by my experiences, this is a part-time job. This is not a full-time job as a councillor. There are, for many of us, a life apart from council. We all give as much as we can in terms of time and attendance. To me, it's a part-time position, and I'm happy to vote in favour of this and let councils down the track in further terms make decisions based on their circumstances at that particular time that is relevant to them.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? Okay, then I'll sum up. Well, what I would like to say is that this is the maximum remuneration that has been set. Councils have the ability, they have been given the ability to be able to set what rate they wish to set for the council, and that's what we're doing. And I would caution anyone to think of who can afford not to have an increase and who can't. That has not been in my moving of this motion. This is to do with what is best for council. And I do believe the remuneration is very generous, plus the benefits that come with the remuneration. And I think that if people were out in the community and saw that the schedule of the amount of time that they believe, and I don't believe that we should be doing it for the money. I think we should be doing it for what we can do for the region. How can we improve council for the people we represent. We are only here temporary, representing the people. So I will be supporting this motion, and I do believe that it's time for restraint in all parts of council. We have inflation going up. That is time for restraint, because if inflation gets away, there is more pain for everyone in the long term. So I certainly will be, I believe this is generous, and I will be supporting this motion to keep to the status quo of what we have now for our roles in this council. So on that note,
Sorry,
we'll go...
Mayor, you just clarified that you said that there are benefits. I'm just concerned that
there
you've
are
suggested
that-
there are benefits. to-
Yeah, there is travel that is paid for. There is meals that are paid for if we're away on council business. There is more than just the remuneration that is afforded. There is superannuation that is paid to councillors. They are all benefits that are part of the job. Some people have...
Sorry, Mayor, allowances. Benefits implies that it's something we're getting that other people aren't. I'm just...
No, actually, no, it's a benefit, because some employees do not get any of those things when they have a job.
They get
Okay.
superannuation.
There is people that do not get superannuation. It is changing now, but and they might not get the level of superannuation.
The minimum superannuation in Australia is 10.5%.
Yeah, and
Which
there is...
but
Depends how you're employed.
as a PAYG, the minimum is 10.5% in Australia.
Yeah.
So I'm just conscious you said benefits and their allowances. I don't want the community to think that
I think the
elected representatives are getting benefits.
The community would see that when we get paid, more than just what we're talking about today is what I'm saying, that there is involved with this job. Okay, on that note, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
All those against? 6-3 if I can call for a division. 10.2, unallocated water release Surat town water supply. Councillor McMullen.
Mr Mayor, I'd like to move that Council A endorse the proposed water licence agreement of 80 megalitres for the township of Surat. B, confirm acceptance of the agreement to the Department of Regional Development, Manufacturing and Water by the due date of 25th February 2023.
We have a seconder, Councillor Ladbrook. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it?
Thanks.
Please go ahead.
Mr Mayor, this is exciting for the township of Surat. It has been a long time coming, and they will be very excited to hear that we do have that backup water source in our town, so that our water source is secure for Surat now with the backup bore. So thank you to the staff for following this up. It has been a long process, so thanks very much.
Does anyone else wish to speak to the motion? I'll speak to the motion. I'd like to thank the federal government as part of the drought monies that we got to sink the bore, which was a wonderful thing, and also the state government with working on the water licence and working through that. So Surat actually has its own amount of supply for the times that we get in a situation that we have problems with our general supply, our normal supply. So this is very good for the Surat community and can give residents and businesses of Surat the confidence to be able to grow and grow the region. Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor
Mr Mayor,
McMullen.
I agree with everyone said. I'd also like to thank the staff. I think Graham's gone now, but Graham's not with us any longer, but thank Graham for a fair bit of effort he put into chasing it all up, yeah.
Okay, no one else wish to speak? Then does the mover wish to sum up?
No, thanks.
We'll go to the vote.
Just noting, sorry, Mr Mayor, just noting that due date's 25th February, which is today, so we need...
Today's January.
You're
right.
That's with today.
The first thing I did was get that extension, realising Christmas.
Okay.
Okay, we're gonna go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
9-0. Okay, item 10.3, Postal Ballot Local Government Elections 2024. I'd like to move that council receive and note the report and acknowledge the minister's deadline for the 30th of April 2023 and continue with previous arrangements. And we had a mix of, we had a polling booth CEO.
Look, through the chair, this is obviously a procedural issue in relation to the elections. If council wishes to look at any part or thereof of any change.
Yeah, so last time we had polling booths and obviously people had postal votes were sent to them as well, but it's not a postal election, so that's what I'm in favour of. How would you do the wording for that?
Mayor, can I suggest that you lay this on the table until a fortnight where we can get the resolution that we moved last term to reflect what you're suggesting, so we don't...
Okay, yeah, I'm happy to do that.
Just through the chair, yes, we've certainly got time. Yes.
Right, okay, I'll move that we lay this on the table to the next meeting of council to get the wording for the last resolution we moved. All those in favour?
Mr Mayor, we need a seconder.
Just to lay it on the table.
Sorry. That's right.
Councillor Edwards, are you in favour of that?
Yes.
Righto, 9-0, we'll move on. Item 11.1, Selective Inspection Program 2022 results. Do we have a mover? Councillor O'Neill.
I'll move the council receive and note the officer's report as presented.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Burkett. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it?
Thank you. I think the report speaks for itself in terms of the results of what has been another successful round of inspections across the region. I encourage residents interested in this aspect of council to have a read of the report to understand the work that our officers do to ensure that people are complying if they own dogs and cats in our town. This report illustrates that by and large people are compliant. The introduction of the SMS and the public notice has been well received and in fact has proven to be a success in getting as many people that had dogs that weren't registered or renewed to do that. And I thank the officer for the advice that they provided on page 79, strongly recommending that both the program and the methods of communication continue. We all know that there have been major concerns around dogs in our region and cats for that matter, and council is addressing that through our annual inspection program and through the CEO. If you can pass on my thanks for the work that our officers do to execute this in a professional way.
Okay, does anyone wish to speak against the motion? I'll speak against the motion. Certainly have no problem with the selection of a section program except for the point that officers can come in unannounced to people's yards. I certainly have feedback from the community, they don't support that. And on that note, I do not support selective inspection programs based on that. I certainly do support the SMSs, messages, any way to let people know that they have not paid their registration. I think that's a very good thing, and it's since we've put that in, it's sort of modernising council, and we realise people's lives are very busy and people have a lot of cost pressures. So I certainly are very supportive of what the staff have done in that regards, and also as they're handling complaints and that compassionately, very supportive of that, but certainly not in support of having a notice where we can go in unannounced without making an appointment. Okay, does anyone wish to speak for the motion? Does the mover wish to sum up?
Can I just speak against, please?
Please go ahead.
I also agree with you. the privacy aspect of it, and whatever happens on that side of the fence, so to speak. And I'm just not sure, but I don't think in the report there's been anything spoken to us about, or given to us about any communications or what's happened with every particular thing. I'd like to see probably in future that there's some sort of report on if there were any problems in that regard. So yeah, I'll be voting against it. I'd like to also say they're also very good. On the other hand, everything that's being done is commendable and that sort of thing. But yeah, I'll just reiterate that I'm not particularly keen on that other side of it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak for the motion? Does the mover wish to sum up?
Thanks very much, Mr Mayor. I will now. Just to highlight on page 78, it goes into some level of detail in terms of the results of the inspections and to what the findings were, and there's a number of stats. It also talks to what communication was provided to the community in relation to the annual inspection program. And then it does have a section on what the enforcement action was, because at the end of the day, the people I suspect that are going to complain are the ones that aren't doing the right thing. I'm a dog owner. I have a registered dog. If there was a suspicion that I had a dog and it wasn't registered, well, how else are our officers going to ensure there is compliance without having a look? And there are more people in our community, far more people based on the statistics, that are doing the right thing than the wrong thing. And on that basis, I am very strongly supportive of the inspection program and the success that it's had. I think it's going on 6 years now to ensure that we do have and encourage our residents to be the most responsible dog and cat owners that they can be. So I urge councillors to support the resolution.
Okay, we'll go to the vote then. All those in favour? All those against?
Against.
6-3, if I can call for a division. Okay, moving on to, I think that one's gone, and so we should be on to what page, please? 80?
Yep.
Thank you.
That was in pink though, wasn't it? Through the chair, just from a procedural perspective, just to make council aware, item number 11.2 was actually laid on the table from the last meeting, and so it is sitting in your agenda. You do have a further report that is part of the agenda, which is after subsequent legal advice from that report, and I would ask if council would be willing to withdraw this report from the agenda accordingly.
Okay. Okay, would someone like to withdraw the 11.2 from the agenda? Councillor McMullen?
Mr Mayor, I'll move that we withdraw 11.2 from the agenda and a new agenda item has been listed in closed.
Yeah, do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Burkett, all those in favour?
So this has been removed from the website.
That's right.
Already.
Yes. 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 It's
You've
not
just moved
publicly
this
in
matter
that
from,
space.
the staff have moved this matter from open to closed.
Yeah, look, through the chair, there's a lot of material that sits in this report that is confidential.
Yep.
Hence why that other report was actually done. When we've gone back to check this, we've seen it in the public arena, so hence we've taken that away from the public view and awaiting the reposting of the agenda once all the resolutions are in place.
Okay, and Councillor Edwards, you're in favour of laying it on the table?
Yeah.
Withdrawn, I should say.
Withdrawing, yeah.
Yep, okay. Righto, 9-0. Okay, moving on then. 95, thank you. Item 11.3, monthly financial report as at the 30th of November 2022. Do we have a mover? Councillor Ladbrook.
I'd like to move that council receive and note the monthly financial report for the period ending the 30th of November 2022.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Burkett. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
Okay, 9-0. Councillor Edwards, you're a little bit quiet maybe on your speaker there. So just so you
Okay.
bit of feedback.
Testing. Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can. Like the last thing you said was really good.
Okay.
Okay, so moving on.
So we've got a mover and seconder, no discussion.
Yeah, we voted on that. We voted on that one, didn't we? Yeah. Okay, moving on to the tender.
This should be.
11.4. Tender 22019, supply and delivery of chemicals for swimming pool treatment, drinking water treatment and sewerage treatment. Councillor McMullen.
Mr Mayor, I'll move that council, 1, select the following suppliers as the recommended suppliers for the supply, storage and delivery of chemicals for swimming pool treatment for their applicable separable portions based on locality. Tenderers: W and R.W. Lambert Proprietary Limited, trading as Roma Home Improvement Centre, Roma and Warrego. B.M. and J.R. Stanton, trading as Mitchell Hardware and Plumbing, Baringa. Bel Paso Proprietary Limited, trading as Indune Hardware and Parts for Bungle. 2, allow the Bendemeer Directorate to continue purchasing from Midwest Rural Traders under the Local Government Act S104 3C sound contracting principles of the development of local business and industry.
Okay, we have a seconder?
Yeah, just a question.
Or a question. Did you wish to second it?
Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
Through you, Chair. Michael, the with the Stanton one, I just noticed it's probably all new to these guys. They've got a few boxes to tick off. Is that going to be in the process moving forward? Like there's a few things that weren't supplied or comparison to the others.
Well, perhaps they maybe didn't understand the process, maybe.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But do they obviously
It's already been decided in here what.
Yeah, I'm on full agreement.
If
But
there's any documents missing or anything like that, that will be done before they sign the deed of agreement. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, these are always subject to some outstanding things like that.
Yeah, and I think it's good. I think we spoke about it last year about locals getting a crack. So I think it's a great initiative. Thank you. Happy to second it.
Okay, now does the move wish to speak to the motion?
Right, Mr Mayor. I think it's a good mix of suppliers being given the chance to supply in their different areas, and I'm really happy with it.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Taylor.
I too would just like to say, great to see it's all local. Really pleased.
Does anyone else wish to speak? I'd just like to say to the officer, the manager, I believe, congratulations. This is the best tender I have seen. I'm extremely impressed about the amount of local in this tender. Unfortunately, not everyone, I think, was successful, but the amount of local people in the tender was excellent. So congratulations for going to that effort and getting that to happen. It's part of our local government responsibilities to promote efficient local business or encourage efficient local business or something like that. So congratulations on being so effective to get people in the room, and I would like to see in the future we have more of it, because we do know that every dollar that we spend locally stays locally and has a multiplier effect. So congratulations to the staff, and we look forward to getting a closer relationship with our staff and local business to work together for the benefit of council and our ratepayers. Does anyone else wish to speak? Does the mover wish to sum up?
No, thank you.
We'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
9-0.
Thank you, Michael.
Page 129.
Thank you. 11.5, overdue rates, commencement of legal action.
Mr. Mayor, can I just ask a question on this before we start?
Yeah, please.
Should we know who they are in case we have a conflict?
No, through the chair, I will point to a piece of paper I put on your, just in front of you prior to the start of the meeting. Look, at this point, no, you don't need to see the detail, but just to give you an understanding about what we're asking is that in our policy settings, we go through a series of steps, and there's 2 points at which we work with council to pass a resolution to get on to the next step. And this particular report is basically saying to you, we have a number of assessments that are sitting in the step 1, 2, 3, 4 that now need a resolution to go to step 5. You're a long way from there, but I think that it assists that, and it might assist you at some date in the future. We will be bringing assessments that sit at a lower category and even down here to you in a briefing over the next month.
Yeah. Councillor O'Neill.
I'll move the council endorse the next step in the rates recovery process, that is to proceed to filing a statement of liquidated claim with the local magistrates court after the 26th of January 2023, serving upon the ratepayers who have 1, not paid the outstanding rates, 2, not entered into an appropriate payment arrangement, and or 3, not complied with an appropriate payment arrangement.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Ladbrook.
Am I able to ask a question?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Through you to the CEO, some of these people, some of these rates notices, I know a couple of people have asked me to check up on people that are no longer with us, have been dead for years. They won't go to the magistrates court, will they? They'll be drafted out because we'd be only wasting money.
Unless we dig them up.
Through the chair, just the probably.
Their estate.
No estate, nothing.
So through the chair, the simplest way to look at, so the report in front of you and any subsequent report that you may receive at some point is you have these intervention points as council to, they're there for council to take seriously going to the next step. And there's, in your policy settings, there's a range of actions that council staff take in order to enact your policy. When we're resuming for rates, we're right down here. At the moment, this is really about moving people into this next arena, and the advantage of this table is when you actually look at your rates arrears as articulated in your financial report, it will make more sense. Why is because that you'll see that if you look at the tracking of that, what we call debt recovery, is that the majority of your rates are recovered in that first step and that letter of demand. It's a very small percentage that actually end up in this space. However, we will certainly be bringing a briefing over the next month, given the fact that we've had COVID concessions for the last couple of years, is, you know, where are all of these other aged arrears situation, and giving council a good heads up in relation to that. But at this point, we are just moving to this second step below the line, and what we're presuming is that it will follow the standard pattern, and we'll get about 80 to 90% of our rates recovered at that point without having to go further. So it is an effective process, and we really look to recover early as opposed to end up in quite a long-winded process, which usually takes anything from 3 to 4 years to get to this point. But there's quite a small percentage that end up there. And so what we would predict coming out of this report is this resolution, if it's passed today, is the majority of those outstanding rates would be recovered quite quickly, you know, during the year.
I've got a question. Is there a way that we could send out, now we use SMSs for dog fees that are overdue, what the community has as said, is that it's a huge hit, $750, because they haven't paid it. And obviously, is there a way for that council could consider actually sending out a message and say, do you realise you're up for $750 if you don't pay your rates, if you haven't talked to us, whatever, some way of trying to, because it actually puts them under more rate stress when they have to pay $750.
What, can I ask where the 750 is?
This is just rate step of $750.
Oh, yeah, but it's, sorry, it's not $750, but I think it is about $600, isn't it?
Yes, that's
Yeah,
correct.
sorry, I had the figure
exact
wrong.
amount, but I believe that amount's actually legislated as what we're actually able to recover under either the Act or the regulation. I'd have to double check that. I do believe that for a lot of our debt recovery at the moment, we do SMSs. In particular, I can refer you to, for example, water consumption. We definitely do that, and I also believe for gas. For other debts, we do that as well. I'm just not 100% sure about general rates, but I'm happy to follow that through as well.
Certainly can confirm, talking to officers, is that it's a very, very comprehensive process in relation to contact, and text is used. And certainly the nature of the policy and the philosophy of the policy is for council officers to exhaust avenues to make sure that we're taking all possible means before we're moving into these sort of more, compliance
Onerous
steps.
Yeah,
Onerous
and we're
steps,
acting in a fair and equitable way towards the ratepayer.
Yeah, because the feedback that I've had, and my question is, like, can we be more explicit and send a text to say you realise you're going to be up for $600 plus the fee if you do not enter a payment plan or whatever, and you will be, like, I've got no problem with this, but it's actually how, as long as we've warned them, because some people just ignore bills and pay other bills.
Yes.
But this is like a real cost. Sorry, it wasn't $750, it was about $600, and a lot of that cost is our debt collector's cost. It's not the actual statutory cost. We can recover it. We're allowed to recover it because it's part of our recovery costs.
Yeah.
So my question is there a way to be able to actually, we probably text them and said your rates are overdue, but have we texted them to say you realise you're up for $600 if you don't plus your rates, will you come and talk to us? And I know we talked about it earlier in this term.
Yes.
We did, because we went to great lengths to adopt the policy.
Yeah, we did, but since then, we've now got SMS for like dogs.
I can tell you, for the rates notice and just gone, 2 text messages were sent to me after I'd paid my rates, so still got 2, which is fine. And it says it in there, if you've paid, but this is for a reminder for the people that haven't. So they get 2, regardless of whether they've paid early or late. And then they get a demand letter, 14 days, second demand letter, 14 days. Like, I mean, how, to the, anyway, I'll speak to it in a minute.
Yeah, and look, through the chair, what I can flag is that this is probably a good conversation to have when we bring those aged arrears to you in that briefing, is because they're more further advanced, and what are the checks and balances? There are a lot of checks and balances, but it's always worthwhile to ask
More than
those
ever
questions.
before, Edwina.
Yes, more than ever, and say, is there anything else that we could do so that we don't end up at point B? But I can assure you is that if we look at the figures, and certainly asking any questions at the financial report, we can show you that actually our process is quite successful at recovery. But again, I can understand that from council's perspective, you would want to make sure that officers are following all means necessary, and we certainly do adopt that philosophy, but we can also talk about that further when we talk about those aged debtors that are a little bit more advanced in that process.
Okay, so does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
I do.
Please go ahead.
I'm supportive of this next step. We went to great lengths in 2020, so it was this term of council that adopted a new rate recovery policy. I can't recall whether it was last term or in my first term that we started to address this, but there were millions of dollars in unpaid rates, millions. And when the community were made aware of that, I've got to say they were disgusted. And the feedback that I got was, what is council doing to address the shortfall in rates. We took steps to introduce a process so that we were capturing the ratepayers that weren't fulfilling their obligation to pay their rates, where the majority of the community were. And so we have finessed that even further with, as I said, the policy that was adopted in November of 2020. There are significant steps in place now to remind ratepayers of their obligation of when their rates are due, and I commend the staff for doing that. But when it gets to the pointy end and people are not complying with their obligation to invest in our community via their rates, then we have to address it. This is what this step that we're going to vote on today was a step that we introduced as part of the policy. So I urge councillors to support it and to give the guidance to the staff to enact the next step of what is a council-adopted policy.
Okay, does anyone wish to speak against the motion? I'll speak against the motion. Certainly happy with going to the next step as far as debt recovery, but a couple of things have happened. One is we've had a report saying how successful it is with the SMSs that we've done for dog registrations and so forth. I don't believe, and as far as I'd like to be corrected, because it would change the way I would vote on this, but I don't believe we've done the same, warning people that they may be approximately up for $600 plus the rates debt. I do understand sometimes people with financial difficulty, I believe that there is going to be more mortgage stress with interest rates going up. I've certainly had feedback from the community about this. I do think this is not the time, if you cannot pay your rates, to be up for another $600 if we can just make them aware of it first. If they wish to ignore that, then we do need to recover rates for council. But I do think that we need to actually have the situation that if we're doing it for a dog registration, which is considerably less, why wouldn't we not be doing and spelling out the amount of money? If it's approximately $600, and I've had feedback since I've been on council, why is it so much in one hit? And there is a lot of generation that will get their messages by text messages, and when they read the $600 plus your rates debt, if you do not pay, I believe that would be showing that we could do the most that we can do to warn people about a significant extra debt that they will be taking on in council's debt recovery. So I don't believe we've done that. I did note that Councillor O'Neill said that he got a reminder text, and I'm not talking about that. I think that's good. I'm talking about before if they can't pay their rates and then they get another $600 of our legal costs on top of that, I think the least that we could do is actually send them a text for the people and let them know about that. And I think we should be actually ringing even a few at a time, some of our ratepayers, and say, would you like text so if you're ever late, we can contact you and make you aware of any significant extra costs that you will incur if you've missed getting your rates notices, whatever happens in life, or you're struggling. Because if they enter a payment plan before they incur the $600 approximately plus their debt, they're going to be much easier to be able to pay it off. So that's my view on this.
Can I ask you a question?
Please go ahead.
Well, based on the debate here, is it or is it not the fact that people are being sent an SMS prior to receiving legal fees or not? Or I mean, it makes a difference between whether you're going to vote, in situations like this, listening to both sides. I'm just wondering if...
Through the chair, we don't SMS that they've got a legal debt. What we do is we SMS that their rates are still outstanding. So that actually happens throughout the process. Do we specifically do something prior to statement of liquidated claims? I'm certainly happy to take that on notice and get back.
No, we don't. I've just received confirmation.
No, we don't, Councillor Edwards. Okay.
Okay then, thank you.
Now, does anyone wish to speak for the motion?
Just a question, just going on councillor O'Neill's, I just checked it must have only started last year. Was it last year? Yeah, the reminder thing, just saying, rates notice have been forwarded to your last known address. If you have paid rates, thank you. And then reminder to receive rates discount. So there is general reminders, but it looks like it's only the last year, which is good, yeah.
But there's no reminder warning them that there's a $600 cost coming with that, councillor.
Potential, if I can just clarify that, potential $650, sorry, Mr. Dean.
Yeah. Councillor Hancock.
I'm thinking this discussion is probably a discussion that we need to have if we're changing our policy, because all this falls out of our policy. But since we're having it now, my question is, many times before this we've had communication with these people. Many times before this they've been offered to go to a payment plan, so if they couldn't afford it. If they went to a payment plan, they wouldn't incur the penalty. Is that correct?
Correct.
So they're only going to incur the penalty if they haven't done anything at all, no matter how much of this level of communication we've had according to our policy prior. And I would have thought that in some of those letters of demand or especially the letter of demand, it would be in there that if you do not pay, it's going to go to legal and there will be fees attached to that. A copy of that letter would be really handy for, probably not for now, but maybe when we look at our policy, so we can fully understand changing our policy.
Look, to be quite honest, I haven't seen the actual letter, but I'm very confident that the letter would state that the next step would be moving you on to either debt recovery, or we would be looking to move you on to legal recovery. Both are, we've outsourced that particular service, and it is with the one particular service. I just don't think we've identified. I know that we do not identify what that cost would be to them.
How much that cost would be.
Yes.
There'd be a cost associated with
Yes.
that, with
Yes.
legal, which most people would know. Thank you.
Just a little bit of feedback on that, councillor Hancock. In the past, we had situations where someone was sold up and they never ever opened any of the correspondence, was the feedback. So they don't even open it because people are dealing with it in different ways.
That's not council's fault if they don't open their mail.
That's
No,
their
text
responsibility.
could be read, you know. So.
That's their choice not to open their mail.
Okay.
If I can just add too, we also would be using emails as well too as an electronic way of contacting customers.
And just for councillors' benefit, there's about 62% of those ratepayers in arrears that are actually in arrangement. So we're talking about how do we actually make sure the 38% doesn't stay 38%, and certainly happy to review that with councillors.
Councillor McMillan.
May I just like to say, as Councillor O'Neill said before, in my first term of council, there was a little over $4 million out in debt, rates debt, and we've got it down to, well, the figure's probably there.
Yeah, and through the chair, you've recovered about $7 to nearly $8 million since 2016.
So we are well and truly on track, I suppose I should say, and I understand where you're coming from, Mr. Member. I would think there would only be a handful of people that get themselves into that situation, and I don't know, maybe a little bit more of an awareness with all rates notices, just to remind people when they go out. I mean, there's only a handful, but you probably couldn't pick them out and send them a letter, but maybe an additional letter with next lot of rates notices reminding them that if they go to that recovery stage, that will cost them extra money.
Yeah, and my point was, will cost $600 extra, and if they get that in text, they might go, we better pay council, you know, because I'm about getting the money in. But anyway, now who hasn't had a chance to speak for or against the motion? Okay, does the mover wish to sum up?
Thanks very much. So for me, I got a rates notice via email. I got a text message telling me that it had been forwarded to my last known address. I've paid it. I've then received a reminder, if you have paid your rates, thank you, to receive a discount you have to pay by the 7th. That was a day before they were due. So that was issued on the 6th of October and they were due on the 7th. So that is 1, 2, 3, minimum of 3. Now, if I hadn't paid it, I would have got another text message to say they're overdue. then a letter, a reminder letter, there's 5. 6, another second reminder letter before you get the 7th, which is a demand letter, and that's where we're at now. There are 7 potential bits of correspondence that go to an individual ratepayer before it comes to council to make the decision to go to the statement of liquidated claims. 7 times we've engaged with the community. I reckon if we did a poll of our residents that pay their rates, they would have said 7 times is efficient use of communication to remind people that they have an outstanding rates notice. So I urge councillors to support what we'd already adopted in November of 2020, this process, so that we can give the green light to the staff to move forward.
To say on that, councillor,
comment.
Was it sum
If someone,
is it a question? It has to be a question if you,
yeah, it is a question.
Righto.
If someone is ill over a long period of time, you know, like mentally or whatever, and older people that don't get emails or, you know, that sort of thing, would they be fronted? You know, would someone go around and see them? Or they just keep sending them messages? Because I'm sure some people would have a few problems now and again and wouldn't understand.
And through the chair, I certainly can hear the sentiment in the room is there's a process of policy, it's comprehensive. But for what we know is a growing cohort of the population is how do we address the people who have isolated themselves, and that may be a good discussion for the briefing.
I was just going to say.
Because I'm sure there's people there.
Oh, absolutely.
If they were in,
All
Eric, you know,
of it.
I mean,
and remember, there's privacy issues. You're still only dealing with that person.
Yeah.
But I understand the sentiment in the room is, you know, is that comprehensive? It is comprehensive, but is there potentially anything else council can do? Certainly open to have that discussion with council.
okay, we're going to the vote. All those in favour of the motion?
Yes.
All those against? 8-1 if I can call for a division. Okay, moving on. 11.6. Audit Committee Terms of Reference Policy. Do we have a mover?
Got a question.
Please go ahead.
Through the chair, the marked up version. Oh, you've got it.
I had a look at the report, if I could just give you an update. I think we spell it out quite clearly for you very quickly, what the changes are. I do apologise about that, the tardiness of that.
All good.
Report.
Thanks very much.
And it's in colour, so you can see whether it's blue or red, they're the changes.
Through the chair, the commentary in the audit committee was around having a broader remit around the qualifications of
So
members.
we're looking more for a risk-based qualifications and experience. If we can get that particular capability on board, that would be good.
Just a question. Just in terms of the committee composition of 2 councillors and 2 external members,
Yes.
I see that's been the same in both of the policies. We currently only have 3 members.
Yes.
Are we then, have we got a compliance issue that we're not meeting our own terms of reference? And then how is the audit committee meeting if we're not meeting the terms of reference of having a full complement of 4 people?
Yes, I believe it does meet the definition of what the quorum is for the committee. So I think there's got to be 2, of which you have to have at least 1 external member, which is the chairman, being Michael Booth.
Yep.
So it does meet the criteria for a quorum. And sorry, what was the second part of your question, please?
Even though there isn't 4 members though, like the quorum comes into it when there's 4 members. We've only got 3 members.
Yes, so I just go back on my same comment saying it's still a quorum where they have 3 out of the 4 members on board, of which 1 is external.
Even though we've got a consistent vacancy in one of those positions.
That's correct, yes.
So,
is to have 4.
Yeah.
You know, that's the objective.
And so then, should we be looking at the remuneration level for the external positions?
Yes, we've been quite proactive around some recruitment outside of the actual general advertising recruitment process. We have, compared to other councils, we're probably a little bit behind on what some of the other councils are by quite a long way.
Yeah.
But I also suggest that what other councils are paying, I think they're almost paying them almost like on a consultancy basis rather than a committee member basis. And I suppose that would also reshape how you would structure this particular terms of reference. I would suggest if you decided to review the remuneration of the audit committee.
Do you recall, Eric, it's not in the terms of reference actual figure, is it? I know it talks about that
the
they get
dollar
paid.
remuneration.
Through the chair, we have put that in the report,
$1,200.
anticipating potentially a
So
question.
I just
Page
note
136.
that there are a number of councils in New South Wales that are currently recruiting for their audit and risk committees. And from what I can see, it's at a base level of $1,500 per meeting.
Yes.
So is that where you're thinking, is that the difference, or in Queensland are they much higher than that?
I've only compared it to one other council, and their fees were significantly higher than $1,500.
Yeah.
What my thinking was along the lines of, at least we should be including reimbursement of expenses. So if they drive from some other locality, they get reimbursed for the and accommodation if they have the right qualifications and skills. There's probably room to move, I would suggest, based on what the council thinks, to move to $1,500. That might be something that they might consider. The amounts that I've received is anywhere up to $3,500 for a committee, one meeting, plus expenses on top of that. So that's a way up of, and that comes back to my previous comment saying, are they then if you pay them $1,500 or $3,500, are you paying them as a committee member to provide governance and some oversight, or are you actually paying them to provide some consultancy to the organisation? That's something that the council and the audit committee would have to weigh up. And that might be something that might be a conversation to have with the chair, Michael Booth, as well, around what his thoughts are, and seek his views on the world. He might have some other points of view and insight that he might want to bring to the table.
Would it be worthwhile reaching out to other Category 3 councils to understand what the REM is for their audit and risk committees?
Yes, I can seek further Category 3 councils definitely, and seek what they're looking at as well.
Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Taylor.
Well, I just a really quick question. So is that per meeting?
Per meeting.
Per meeting, and those usually 2 a year?
2 a year.
We're saying
Through the
4.
chair, 4.
Oh, four a year. Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Can I just ask a question too?
Yeah, please go
Because when I
ahead.
read the report, it says that we're required to have 2 per year. We have 4 a year,
A minimum of 2.
minimum of 2.
Oh, minimum. Okay, so that's it.
Okay, I'd like to move that Council 1 adopt Audit Committee Terms of Reference policy as presented. 2, repeal any previous versions of the Audit Committee Terms of Reference policy by removing them from the website and policy register. 3, update the website and policy register with the revised policy. Do we have a second? Councillor McMullen, any opposition? Does anyone wish to
Would you
speak?
be willing to include the work that we just discussed to ensure that we are?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. You have some wording there.
Take a review on Category 3 council audit and risk committees, and specifically the remuneration level and arrangements for engaging their independent external members.
I'd also like to add to that, the review also is how we advertise for that position, because there might be more we can do in that to get to a broader group of people that may not be looking how we advertise.
Yes, agreed.
Looking through the chair, some of the changes to your terms of reference were to broaden the wording around the qualifications of people that were panel members. So our process in the past has been to engage with our audit and accounting panels, and again, that might be too narrow a process.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Oh, that's right. Now is Councillor McMullen, are you happy with that extra point? Okay, no, does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
9-0.
Page 150.
Okay, 150. Did you say 150?
That's right.
Yep, thank you. 11.7, monthly financial report as at the 31st of December 2022. Do we have a mover? Councillor,
I have a question.
please go ahead.
Through the chair, Director Eric, would you please explain to us, well, to me, the net operating result total for the December 22 actual, which is at negative $7.636322 million. We're in. To me, it looks like we're in negative $7.6 million.
Yes, we would be in negative. What we do is we levy our rates on a biannual basis, so our general rates and also our water consumption, that consists of around about $40 to $42 million worth of revenue to the organisation. We've done the first half of the year and we're about to do the second half, which will be recognised in our revenue around about during the March period. So you'll see that our expenses are increasing on a line, on a trajectory. However, our revenue is very lumpy because of that particular way we raise our levies on a biannual basis. So that explains it. That gives you an idea. So the current budget for the year is $23,000. That is for the full year. And you have the previous year of financial year's results of minus 6.4. So the trajectory is still roughly the same, saying that it's a massive decrease in our profitability, which does chew into our cash in that 6 months in between. But you'll see it'll increase significantly around about the March period.
Mm-hmm. So what would our year-to-date figure be? Or is
our budget?
Yep. Would that be, and I know I'm putting you on the spot there, so you can might need to take that on notice.
Yes.
But that would be a really handy bit of information to have in this report. Councillor O'Neill and I went down and did a financial management course in Brisbane. That was one of their things that, you know, if you had a year-to-date figure in your financials, that's really handy for councillors to know.
Yes, there does need to be some improvement with regards to how our reporting can improve, such as what you're just suggesting. We're also suggesting that we also look at it from a business unit perspective and also from a directorate perspective, seeing that we're operating in on a local basis now. So that gives you a bit of insight and a bit more depth around what is happening around the organisation financially.
And I do note in the report, and I actually want to thank you that that you actually have put in the cash on hand component, and that's after feedback from another meeting. So thank you very much for that. That's actually really good to know. And I did notice that you did put the directorates in as well in this report. So thank you very much. That's really good to know.
Just through the chair, when you're talking about year to date, especially when you're talking about financial year 31st.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Either. Just when we're talking about year-to-date financials, the normal review process around your budget and your statutory format does come as at the 31st of December. That quarterly review will actually show you your statutory format and your year-to-date accounts. It's just that the timing of that is that's due, next meeting or the meeting after?
Next meeting.
Yep. So you will be getting your quarterly review, which will actually give you your year-to-date position on your profit and loss, and also a forecast position, because they adjust the forecast at the same time.
Yeah, and we get them quarterly, but it'd just be handy to be able to keep track of it monthly.
Yeah, is through the chair, can that be done? Can that be produced? The year-to-date figures, can that be produced on a monthly basis?
You mean the
position, operating position,
Budget
yeah.
year to date, yes.
Right, okay, great, thank you.
Councillor Taylor?
I'm on page 162, the business unit statement of income and expenditure. Can you explain, well, I think it looks really bad, so can you tell me it looks any better than I think it does?
Which page?
162?
Yeah, but which category?
Oh, all of them. Airports,
It's a lot of negatives.
gas, Saleyards.
Which ones are doing well and which ones are not doing well, are you saying? Does that,
Well, if it's negative 371,000 or it's,
Oh,
negative
okay.
91,000, where does that come from?
yes, so at this particular point in time, from my experience, my suggestion would be to look at your year to date, so we're about halfway through the year. So then you compare that to our actual results to what our budget is for the full year, and you'd say, okay, well, if you double that particular result, 371 by 2 is roughly about $700,000. We're around about $200,000 better off than what our budget is based on a run rate for that particular business unit. So we're saying at this moment, we're looking reasonably okay from that particular business unit's perspective. The only one that I would suggest to you from a business unit perspective that might require a little bit in further investigation down the track, we do receive detailed reports about it, but I do think there's a catch-up, is in the quarry result, where the budget is saying that he needs to be making about $1.9 million profit for the year, and currently he's sitting on around about 216, and the budget year to date should be about 900. The reason for that is he's got a lot of stock on hand that he's produced in readiness for internal supply chain for usage, and you can see that on the capital expenditure report for council. We've spent around about $12 million at the moment. He's ready to go. He just needs to sell it through to the next level internally, which is our own internal business unit and infrastructure, and then he'll automatically just improve his profitability. So we're expecting him to still be on target with regards to his budget.
Yeah, you have another question? Yeah, please go
on page
ahead.
164, the local area directors. When it says operating revenue, where are they going to get their revenue from?
I'll be honest with you, I'm still becoming quite familiar with what is actually transacting, but there would be a few areas of inclusion there. They would still be receiving certain things. I do believe that the reporting reports around, from a local perspective, if there's water consumption, I think they still receive that revenue as a local. It's a different way of just reporting it, if I can put it in that light.
They're all in the negative.
Yes.
That's
But if you compare that to what the budget is suggesting, then they're all looking at the results, apart from Warrego, I think it is. No, I think Warrego's in negative territory as well too. So they don't receive any revenue with regards to general rates. I believe that they're just looking at it from an expense perspective.
Thank you.
Notice Warrego is the only one who doesn't have operating revenue. Does that mean that they just don't, or was that just accidentally missed off?
I'd have to take that under notice, I'm afraid.
Yeah, so through the chair, what you're really looking at is a slice of your expenditure. We'll take it on notice and get some detail and put some narrative in the next month's report, especially, but we'll give you some information back on what does the revenue constitute, because it may actually constitute some capital revenue, just looking at some of the other areas. But essentially, given that you're place-based operations, you get to see for the first time the budget being sliced in, so how much are we spending in each area? But we'll certainly give you some more information on revenue.
So is there any way when we do our briefing days and we could actually go through all that then, so that we're not sitting here fumbling through it, like if
Certainly.
we could have all the, someone present it to us so that we know exactly why
That's the intention.
Yes, certainly.
That'd be good.
Well, I think it was Councillor McMullen. Did you have
No,
anything?
Mr Mayor, I was just going to comment on what Director Eric said about the quarry. That's not uncommon for the quarry to be in that position. It's happened quite a few times in my years. And, you know, as you said, they've got to can't go out and sell the product if they haven't made it. It's a bit like stock in your shop. You've got the stuff on the shelf until you sell it, because it's a big expense, but it usually comes good by the end of the year, by the end of the financial year.
Look,
It's a fair comment.
and through the chair, we do actually track a lot of information around our quarry. You know, during the month, we're getting fortnightly reports, management reports in relation to that. So if there's specific questions, happy to take them, and we can certainly provide that detail back to you.
Councillor Hancock.
And just back on the directorates, just a question. So, because I have no idea actually how that is all operating financially within each of the directorates. But if a directorate is, well, I guess with a local one, say Warrego or whoever, Benjamin, if they're doing works for main roads, and that's a income for them, do they keep that income in their area? So if it was Warrego, does Warrego go and they're doing the main roads income, does that income stay in their area? Is that some of their revenue?
Excellent question. I have to take that on the notice.
Yeah, thank you.
And
Just because I've only been here for a short
Yeah,
period of time, just need
absolutely,
to.
yeah.
But that is an excellent question, and
Yeah,
I'll
I'm just
come back
wondering
to you.
how, because we've actually never really had a briefing on how that's all going to work.
Yep.
How that's
Yep.
all operating and if it is set. And,
Yep.
and Madam CEO, it's probably actually if I could suggest, a great conversation to have before we set our budget, so we can actually understand what might be required within our budget as well for
Yeah.
different areas. So.
And
And most of your recoverable projects, like RMPC, are actually managed globally, but they are actually devolved locally. And so what the director's doing now is trying to make that more visible.
Yep. We need to be
through
more
slicing out
transparent in
of it.
what we're doing.
Yes, we do. Yeah, thank you so much for working on that. Thank you.
Okay, now, does anyone wish to move?
Oh, I'm happy to move it. I move that council receive and note the monthly financial report for the period ended 31 December 2022.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Taylor. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We've got
Mr Mayor, I'd just like to say, I just want to actually formally recognise and say thank you very much to our CEO and Director Eric for the information that we're getting reported in these financial reports. It was a great base to start with, and we're just, each time we're getting stronger and stronger, and we're getting more information, and we're being able to understand that information, so thank you so very much.
And through the chair, just on one note, because we talked about this earlier, if you look at page 158 and you put look at your policy workflows, it will make more sense when you read that table, because it's directly aligned with that. But we can talk more about that at the future briefing.
Okay, on that note, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
9-0. 11.8, security camera utilisation policy. I'd like to move that council adopt policy number P21/16, security camera utilisation policy, new as presented, update the website and policy register with the new policy. We have, Councillor Ladbroke, are you seconding that? Do you have a question,
I have a
Councillor
question.
Guthrie? Please go ahead.
And this is just about making sure that we get the right policy in place. As I've read this, it's repeatedly mentioned about fixed security cameras. I believe that's a generic term. I'm a little concerned that we need to be more explicit, because when I did my homework and started looking at CCT cameras, and my belief is that we're actually intending only to do videoing of activity and motion, etc., where the cameras are set up. But the reality is that the range and quality of security cameras vary now with the brands that you're actually buying, and most or many of the CCT cameras will actually have high quality sound recording that is part of the video, is part of the camera. And for many of these, the audio range can reach as far as 6 metres. Now, I'm not assuming that that's what's happening in this instance, but I'm also very, very mindful that a member of the public, I think we need to be very explicit and either have something included in this policy that makes it very, very clear that when we're talking about, and the wording was a fixed security camera, we make it very, very clear that it's actually only using it for visual recording, not for audio, because the only thing that I found when I did a little bit of homework is that there's often a little hole in the actual camera, and that you have the option to actually turn it on or turn it off depending on whether you want to utilise the audio recording option. And I am just very, very mindful that this is one that we really need to nip in the bud before it actually goes out there, that we are only recording visual activity, and if we buy these cameras, that we are not utilising, even if they're available, any sound recording. Because I think if people are standing on the corner of a street, and if you've got video, if you can actually pick up audio 6 metres in any direction, that to me is a very big concern and infringing on people's rights to privacy with audio.
Well, there's what the officer, the manager might have some feedback about that. Did you want to?
Yeah. So with that, in the policy, we do ensure that we're saying that we are aligning with the Information Privacy Act. And so in the Information Privacy Act, it actually is an offence to record when they're a participant of the conversation. So at least that person has to be there. So I guess the policy is there aligning to it, but I guess we're not spelling it out because at the moment, because we've implemented our current security system in alignment with that. So we have a guiding even state government information privacy that we have to follow around. They have some guidelines. They're not super prescriptive of how we do it. It's just follow these information privacy principles, ensure we're taking care of people's privacy and how we manage that. So definitely implied, and how we've configured everything now, we do not turn any audio recording on because of the implications of around we're breaching information, the Invasion of Privacy Act. So that's just a given, but definitely if we want to spell it out in the policy, for sure. The other part of that as well is probably this policy needs to be also probably coupled with, and which the intent is there, with some guidelines we want to publish on the council website. So definitely we can direct the community to less of a policy type document, which will be available there as well, but more of a higher level overview on how we're using that and make sure we include what we do and don't do there around that for that. Because obviously people probably want to read through a policy, but definitely if we have it up there, at least in the guidelines on how we're using it for the community to really help that education, so we can alleviate some of that concern around what we're using it and how we're using it.
And Mr. Mayor, if I can just respond to Manager Rubin's comments, I just think there's two things. One is there's an element of trust, that people are trusting certain things and reading, and they may be reading this and going, I think it needs to be spelt out. And I also think that we need to recognise that there are people who do at various stages of mental unpacking of things. And I'm thinking of an example fairly recently where people were becoming paranoid about things. And my aim by even raising this is to take out the possible paranoia and basically say if we can put a sentence in there, or maybe clarify with even a fixed security camera, because that term is used repeatedly, which to me says that it's only videoing action. But then I'm also very, very mindful that depending on the security camera being purchased, many of them have, as part and parcel of the sophisticated technology that you're now buying, you do have the opportunity to have voice recording and just simply switch it on or off based on your programming.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. We can easily add that in as an amendment. And obviously the term fixed security camera often is trying to refer to differentiate between, like, say, the community safety team that wear a body-worn camera, which they obviously are part of the conversation. They are recording that conversation. So we just need to make sure that we're saying we're not recording it with fixed camera solutions as part of, in alignment with the Information Privacy Act. Blah, blah, blah.
So through the chair, given the fact that the policy does refer to the legislation, to strengthen that, have you got any suggestions potentially wording wise, or would you like that we could add to the policy today to get it through, or?
I would probably.
Or would you like that addressed in guidelines?
For me, it's probably easily enough to just reference in there around. There'll be a section around how we're using it, just to add that clarity around in alignment with the Invasion of Privacy Act 1971. Council ensures that no recordings are turned on for all fixed
CCT, or fixed security camera solutions across the Maranoa.
Through the chair, with wording to that effect.
So I think the other thing, but we've got to be careful we don't affect law enforcement doing their job. And one of the things is they have recording on them for a good reason. My thing when I've been speaking to the community is that I actually say, well, there's got to be really tight rules who can look at it. And are they suspecting a crime, or is it just, you know, people inside the organisation looking at it? So no one should be. So do you have any protection in there for that?
We do outline in the policy around who can access that information. We try to be clear that we don't, it's not a live monitored system. Law enforcement can on request, and we have a process internally around how the requested documentation, we have a handover of that information, including how we securely provide it to the QPS. There are, and we've tried to provision what we use it for in there as well. There could be circumstances that we try to put in there if there's during disaster event, there's ability to be able to actually have a look at the camera to see someone might have went past a certain way to try to track where someone is from a rescue, could be endangered, someone's life endangered, trying to find something, then we try to provision around assessing that as well. But generally, we're fairly prescriptive of what we can and can't use it within that policy to try to alleviate, for that exact reason, around who's going to be accessing that information. It's not just, I wanted to have a look at who was going past somewhere on the day. Even internally, it is a time consuming thing to even open up that can of worms, even from a staffing perspective, to accommodate that access of information. It's just not a live monitored thing to be able to do that.
Councillor Hancock?
Just a quick question with the fixed security camera terminology. When I read fixed security camera, I think of a permanent one, like the ones we put at the Surat entrance signs. They're fixed. But we're also talking about trying to get some mobile ones that we can move around at some stage. So I just wonder whether...
I still class those as fixed, as in that they're stationary. They're not attached to a vehicle or to a person.
So I wonder then if even that has clarified. So even after the word fixed, even in brackets, we can put stationary. Or whether that complicates. You might have to think through that, but when I think of fixed, I think of permanent. I don't think about the moving, necessarily the ones that were moving around. So it's just a...
And just through the chair, just as you're discussing that, just looking at the definitions,
From the back.
Ruben, it's just that security cameras permanently attached to a facility or site. Potentially, we might just expand that definition a bit more.
Sure.
Yeah, just to clarify.
Yep. Okay.
Councillor McMullen?
Mr Mayor, can I move we lay this on the table to a future meeting to give the manager to rejig the policy and maybe present it?
Just through the chair, before we do that, we are about to install stuff. Will the lack of policy affect that installation?
Look, I'd feel more comfortable if we had a policy.
Maybe later in the day. Later in the day, then.
Yes.
Just if I just try and take the pressure off you a little bit there. But
Sure. It's a good change. Yep.
Yeah, I think the feedback is we need to do it today, so if we can. So do you want to move that, Councillor McMullen?
Just like a question first.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Just in terms of the point that was made around audio and privacy, are you afforded privacy when in a public place?
Right,
Like
that from a recording video, or are we talking audio?
Or both?
So under the state law in regards to where we put cameras is probably the defining at the moment. There is the only place that we can't put cameras is where a reasonable expectation of privacy. So reasonable expectation of privacy is usually defined as like toilets or changing rooms. In public places, there's not really a reasonable expectation of privacy because you're on a footpath or in a walking area or in a public area.
So it'd be good to understand, I mean, Councillor Guthrie's raised her point around audio. The Mayor's got a different perspective. Can we get some advice as to whether we are in fact impinging on people's privacy by recording both visual and audio in a public place, i.e. down the main street?
Audio, 100%. There's legal implications. We can't record it. It's pretty clear under the invasion of privacy. We cannot record audio on a security camera because we're not part of the conversation. So it's 100% we cannot.
Yeah, I agree.
From a legal perspective. Video, yes. Audio, no. That's fairly cut and dry in the.
Right, well, that's clear then, thank you.
But also, if we've got that wording coming back, the other one is, and I think it's a big statement for the community, is that there has to be a suspicion of something happening to be able to look at the footage, or a community safety reason or whatever, some reason where people, and that's what that basic document you'd be talking about would go on the website, would be, this is how it's going to be treated. So if someone is looking at it from a point of view of, am I being watched? Can, you know, the person that works at council just go and have a look at what's happening in my street? No, there has to be real reasons and really tight privacy around it, you know.
Yep.
If you can have a look at that, and obviously all the feedback from the councillors, and
Sure.
it's probably more the statement to the community is what we've got to get right.
So there's an initial statement in the scope of the policy document. Does that outline, or does it require more detail around what the intended use of the CCTV? Does that address that? I think there's about 5 dot points there.
Well, one thing here would be that we only want to, basically, I would like to see something that we only authorise use if we suspect or have a reason to look at it. So we're not looking at, no one can look at it. So you can't be in a part of the council and start looking at the footage of in town, you know. You actually have to have a reason to look at it, and it could be disaster management reason, it could be criminal. Like, so no one gets to look at it. So if someone says, who's looking at that camera? And it's like, no, unless it would be the police, if they suspect something.
It's got it there though,
Yeah.
yeah, it's got
It
5 dot
assisting-
points that says this is the reasons why we're doing what we're doing.
Collection of evidence for actual or suspected breaches of legislation, including council local laws, observe weather events to provide up-to-date information for disaster management teams, provide information regarding waste collection data, and provide a record of interaction between an officer and a member of the public.
Could we put in the front of that something like, council will not be looking at it unless it's these points, you know, like there's no access to it unless, you know, like we're putting the thing that we don't want to look at it.
Okay, I might be able to think about a one-liner there that talks about that any, I guess, any
actually
analysis of the data will be only
actually
in
says it-
conjunction with the guidelines
I
or
do
something like
state
that.
a little bit further down.
3.2.
Yeah.
Management of personal information.
Yeah,
That
Dealing-
management will ensure that authorised persons dealing with personal information are trained, informed of their obligations and under relevant legislation. The training includes the collection, storage, retention, disclosure and disposal of information.
Right, so, okay, so we've got all the feedback and we'll see what Reuben comes back with. So we've moved, Councillor McMullen's moved to lay it on the table. We'll do the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
Okay, 8-0, and we'll break back in half an hour. Okay, we'll keep going. 11.9, 2023 council meeting schedule. Do we have a mover? Councillor McMullen.
Mr Mayor, I'll move that council amend the resolution 0M-12.2022-01 stating that council, 1, continue to hold the ordinary meetings on the 2nd and 4th Wednesdays of each month, commencing at 9 a.m, except for January, when a single meeting will be held on Wednesday the 25th of January 2023. 2, hold the ordinary meetings in the council chambers, Ernest Brock Room, if applicable, for the months of January to August 2023, except for the first meeting in February and March, which will be held in Injune and Surat respectively, as per resolution number 0M-09.2022-05. Adopt the 2023, is that a continuation, Kelly? Yeah, adopt the 2023 ordinary meeting schedule from January to August 2023 as presented and attached to the officer's report. 4, consider the remainder of the meeting schedule locations for the months of September to December 2023 at a future meeting. 5, hold a trial of councillor briefings for a year or upon review on the second and fourth Tuesday of each month, with a general understanding that the briefing will commence at 9:30 a.m. as required, to free operational staff up with off weeks with no council meetings being held, and replace it with 1. Continue to hold the ordinary meetings on the second and fourth Wednesday of each month, commencing at 9 a.m, except for January, when a single meeting will be held on Wednesday the 25th of January 2023. 2. Hold the ordinary meetings in the council chambers, Ernest Brock Room if applicable, for the months of January to August 2023, except for the first meeting in February and March, which will be held in Injune and Surat respectively, as per resolutions number 0M-09.2022-05. 3. Adopt the 2023 ordinary meeting schedule from January to August 2023 as presented and attached to the officer's report. 4. Consider the remainder of the meeting schedule locations for the months of September and December 2023 at a future meeting. 5. Hold a trial of councillors briefing for a year or upon review on the Tuesday immediately preceding the ordinary meetings, which are to be held on the second and fourth Wednesday of the month, with a general understanding that the briefing will commence at 9:30 a.m. as required.
I second that. Do we have any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
All those against? 8-1 if on corporate division. Okay, moving on.
Page 179.
13.1, Roma Saleyards project update.
Just through the chair, we do have the manager online.
Right, thank you. Councillor Burker, did you have a...
No, I was just going to move it.
Move it, please go ahead. Have you got a question?
I have a conflict I'd like to declare.
Oh, right, okay.
I have two actually on the same thing. So description, item 13.1, description Roma Saleyards project update, declaring Councillor Joanne Hancock. Person with interest is GL and JM Hancock, my husband and myself. Hancock Pastoral Company, my brother-in-law and sister-in-law, and my husband and myself. Particulars of interest, our NDs buy and sell cattle at Roma Saleyards. Type of conflict, declarable conflict of interest. And my action is, although I have a declarable conflict of interest, I do not believe a reasonable person could have a perception of bias. Therefore, I will choose to remain in the meeting. However, I will respect the decision of the meeting on whether I can remain and participate in the decision.
Councillor Taylor?
I believe that it is in the public interest that Councillor Hancock participates and votes on agenda item 13.1 because a reasonable person would trust that the decision is made in the public interest.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor McMullen? Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0.
And Mr Mayor, I actually have a second declaration on the same one, and I didn't know how to do it, so I was just doing, I just had to do it separately.
Righto.
Oh, Kel, did you got the second one? No? It was all in that one email?
Yeah,
That's okay, I'll just...
Yeah, it is there. It should have been there.
I'll just bring it up, sorry.
So, through the chair,
It's okay.
my interpretation was that the second one was a close associate and the first one was a direct.
So my second one on the same. Okay. Item 13.1, description, Roma Saleyards projects update, declaring Councillor Joanne Hancock, party with interest is GL and JM Hancock, my husband and myself. Particulars of the interest, we cart cattle from the Roma Saleyards. Type of conflict, declarable conflict of interest, and the action is, although I have a declarable conflict of interest, I do not believe a reasonable person could have perception of bias on this agenda item as it is an information-only report. Therefore, I will choose to remain in the meeting. However, I will respect the decision of the meeting on whether I can remain and participate in the decision. Sorry, I should have said we cart cattle from the Roma Saleyards and the dump ramp is mentioned in the report. And that's why I'm putting it to the meeting, because it's an information-only report.
Okay, do we have someone that wants to move something? Councillor Burkett.
I'd like to move the council receive and note the report as presented.
Oh, no, you have to vote
No, we
on.
have to.
Oh, sorry, we haven't done the second one.
No, yeah, the second conflict. Councillor Taylor.
I'll just wait for it to come in. I believe that it's in public interest that Councillor Hancock participates in votes on agenda item 13.1 because a reasonable person would trust that the decision is made in the public interest.
We have a seconder, Councillor Burkett. Any opposition? Anyone wish to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0. So we have a mover, Councillor Burkett.
I'd like to move the council receive and note the report as presented.
We have a seconder, Councillor Ladbrook. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to...
Yes, Mr Mayor, I just think it's great to see these ones starting to come to fruition, especially the dump ramp and the cattle crushers. I think that's something that's way overdue, so looking forward to see that progress.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? Then we're going to go to Councillor McMullen.
Mr Mayor, just... That's right, be right, thanks.
Okay, anyone else wish to speak? Then we're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
9-0. Okay, moving on.
184.
Page 184. Surat Tennis Court Upgrade Project. I would like to move that council approve change in scope of the Surat Tennis Court Upgrade Contribution Project WO 22963 to Surat Tennis Court Upgrade 4 courts and include a second project of Wallumbilla Tennis Court upgrade. Included in approving an increase in the 2022-23 budget from 57,000 to 247,524, additional 190,524 with $24,016 contribution from SDDA and balance of 166,508 from LRCI funding reallocation from road maintenance and lower order unsealed roads. So is that, I've got a question on that, is that a future allocation from LRCI or part of the $1 million or 1.5 that we had? Which part of that is it?
Yeah, through the chair, Mr Mayor, that's the current budget where the funding is coming from the LRCI budget.
Oh, right, okay.
So through the chair from the micro panel allocation.
Correct. I do have a bit of background if you'd like me to expand on that. We do have sufficient amount of future projects coming online through other funding sources, so we believe we'll be able to cover those types of roadworks on the lower order roads through those funding mechanisms.
So, well, I'll keep going. From LRCI funding reallocation from roads and maintenance on lower order and unsealed roads, with, I'll put an extra point in there, with the funding to the LRCI from road maintenance and lower order unsealed roads replaced via a quarterly review to remain the integrity of the lower order unsealed roads program in a future quarterly review. And then the next thing is authorise the Chief Executive Officer or delegate to submit a variation to the LRCI Phase 3 program. Okay, Councillor Hancock.
Mr Mayor, I'm just wondering if you would consider an amendment because whilst I agree that the Wallumbilla Tennis Court upgrade is really important and I agree with that, I think it makes it all messy for this one for Surat because the money that the director has put is actually the exact money with the quotes that to be able to do the Surat project. So I just think that that makes it all a bit muddy, and I'd like to put forward that we can just leave 1, 2 and 3 as it is, and then on 4, if you would like to, we could put investigate the upgrade of the Wallumbilla Tennis Court as part of the upcoming budget quarterly review. Or we could bring another report on that, but I just think it really muddies, especially with the funding that's attached to be able to do the
And from the SDA contribution
contribution,
as well.
yeah, because they would not want to contribute to the Wallumbilla project. They're contributing to get the Surat project up.
Councillor Guthrie.
Can I just clarify, because
Sorry,
I've put forward an amendment,
yeah,
Mr
so you
Mayor.
need to consider the amendment first.
So you've asked for amendment to change that.
I've asked for, yes, for an amendment to leave 1, 2 and 3 as the officer put forward, and to add in point 4 to investigate the upgrade of the Wallumbilla Tennis Court. Wallumbilla Tennis Court at an upcoming quarterly review. So probably just take that upgrade out, the second upgrade. Whichever one.
Yeah, no, I won't accept that amendment. The Wallumbilla courts have been waiting longer, I believe, from a council point of view, on the unfunded list, so,
You need to seek a seconder for that amendment.
I'll second the amendment, Mr Mayor.
righto. So we have a seconder for the amendment. Does the move wish to speak to the amendment?
Yes, I do. Thanks, Mr Mayor, but I pretty well said why I was putting it forward as an amendment before, as I just think that whilst the Wallumbilla Tennis Court upgrade is very important, I think that it just complicates this resolution, which is about the Surat Tennis Court upgrade. And I know that our director has been working really closely with the SDDA, and there's actually been a subcommittee formed for the Surat Tennis Court upgrade, and they've been trying to seek funding. And this is actually about their project and how to get that project up and over the line. And the SDDA is actually putting money towards that project. Whereas if it stands as it was read, the resolution that you've had, Mr Mayor, it's going to look like that the Surat SDDA is contributing $24,016 to a joint project of upgrading Surat Tennis Court and the Wallumbilla Tennis Court, and I actually don't think that they would be in agreement to that. So therefore, I'm just putting this forward to uncomplicate it and try and give the best effort to both upgrades to both tennis courts in their own right as separate projects.
So just let's get clarity on what the motion, what the amendment is. What part of that is the amendment that you're moving?
1.4.
So is 1, 2 and 3 still in there, or?
Yeah,
So-
mine is yours, the original motion.
So 1, 2 and 3 is exactly as the officer has put it up. And I'm happy to leave, I'm actually happy to leave in where we can, with the funding, the LCO road maintenance replaced by a quarterly review or looked at. I'm happy to leave that in. We can look at that as at a quarterly review.
So
Take Wallumbilla out of one.
Just
and
take
put it in
basically all I'm asking for is to take and include a second project of Wallumbilla Tennis Court upgrade and add in point 4.
Your amendment is what's on the screen.
Correct.
What Kel's got?
right, okay. Investigate upgrade of the Wallumbilla tennis courts at an upcoming quarterly review. Councillor Guthrie.
Can I just ask, because I'm very confused as to process, so you know what, maybe somebody can help me. So 2 years ago, Wallumbilla Town Improvement Group wrote to us and asked us to provide funds we actually went out to organisations in 2000 when we got elected and started doing the first budget. We said, go and get projects, and that was a project that was suggested. It came to a council meeting, and we then said we would put on the unfunded project proposals, and we were going to look at having it in the next budget. My question is, where are we at with that? And then how is this now changing? How is this now changing the motion in front of us? I'm just trying to get my head around, does this mean that because
Does,
Do you want me, was that a
does-
question to me?
does
Do you want me to
Surat
answer
No, no, I'm
that?
have a
asking the
priority?
Mayor. So the the LRCI funding is generic funding that can be used for a whole range of purposes. Is that not correct?
Yeah, and it was allocated to the 1.5 million.
To road maintenance.
Road maintenance on lower order roads.
Yeah.
And, yeah,
You need a speaker against the the amendment.
So can I just ask my question again and say, well, where are we at with, how does this impact on the Wallumbilla that they'd sent 2 years ago through Wallumbilla Town Improvement Group and promised to commit money to? I mean, I'm just trying to get my head around where we're at. Yeah.
Yeah, so this
yeah.
is about the Surat project
Yeah.
that was put in and carried over many budgets. So the Surat project's been around just as long as the Wallumbilla project, so it's not a comparison. This is about the Surat Tennis Club project, and the fact that the director has brought it forward. There's representatives of the SDDA here that are passionate about this. They've moved forward in the project. If council needs to look at the Wallumbilla tennis court upgrades, we need to look at it and make it happen. We can bring it forward at any time. You as a councillor can bring it forward at any time. I can bring it forward at any time from the unfunded, and we're going to look at that in the next few weeks anyway. Today is about the Surat tennis court upgrade project, and so I just think we're overcomplicating it.
Through the chair, just to be clear, the reason it's been put forward to you is 2 reasons. One, more money is required, but there is a change of scope, moving from 2 courts to 4. So there is a change of scope. So your question through the chair, Councillor Guthrie, was probably about how did we change that scope, but in relation to the debate about the motion, that might be something that someone can ask. But in relation to the amendment that's sitting before you, you had the Mayor moving an original motion. You've got an amendment proposed, which has taken out and included a second project, Wallumbilla Town, and port upgrade, and a 4th point there, and you're in discussion in relation to this amendment.
So just an answer to that, just want to clarify something. There was never a scope around the Surat tennis courts upgrade that went with that money. It was actually just putting money in the budget, went back to the community to work that out. So the 4 courts were always about how to upgrade the 4 courts.
Right.
Within the community consultation, the community has had many discussions about lots of different things with the Surat Tennis Club, and that's what the community has put forward, is that they would like to see the 4 courts upgraded. They are in terrible, terrible disrepair. When you drive past, and it's on our main thoroughfare, it is actually an embarrassment for the Surat.
Councillor Henkel, we're not at that point yet for you to speak, I don't think.
Oh,
so.
fine. I could clarify that.
Up to a speaker against.
Yeah, I'll speak against the motion. The amendment. Couple of things. I have been very supportive of doing the tennis courts. I believe when the community knows we've spent $247,000, I do believe the value for money is not there, and we should be able to do the Wallumbilla courts at the same time. I believe that's value for money for ratepayers. I am aware of what other courts have cost, and I think that is on the very high side. I also believe council, with the gear and some of the support we could do, we could get that price down. So I do think very supportive of getting the Surat courts upgraded, and they are in a very bad state. There's no doubt about that. I have walked over them and seen that. But I do think that we could incorporate it all together and it would be better value for money. So that's why I won't be supporting this amendment. And I think that we should be looking at the best value for money, and council should pay the same amount and try and get the best quality and deal that the community is, and that's why I believe we could do the 3 projects. When it comes to SDDA contributing to the Wallumbilla project, in no way. It just means that we might be able to get a better value for money. Appreciate the SDDA contribution. It's an excellent idea, but if we did the 3 in that would come from the money that is in there, the $190,000, if not more, that plus our original money we put aside. So I don't think if we did 3 projects for the price of 2, I don't think that would be ever coming out of the SDDA money. Okay, does someone wish to speak for the amendment?
I'd just like to know where the 3 projects have come from.
Well,
Rat Town's courts and the Wallumbilla.
the four courts and the four courts at Surat plus the Wallumbilla upgrade that is required.
For 2 projects.
2 projects, but more than 2 actual courts. Okay, does anyone wish to speak for the amendment?
Mister, I just want to speak. After attending Wallumbilla Town Improvement Group last week, I don't think there's any way that money will do 2 lots of courts. They're spending, I think it was 60,000 themselves to do a temporary
Fix.
fix on their surface now. So that's not a proper. That's just to fix the surface, and that's without renewing everything. So I don't think that money would stretch to do both areas. I think.
So just to give you an idea, I know 2 courts have been done in the Maranoa for 87,000, a replacement, and I do believe that is there's better value for money that can be. Just answering what you said there, just so you know.
61,000 or something just to do a patch up. Well, not a patch, but they call it like a patch.
Temporary.
Temporary repair.
Well, that wasn't a temporary. The 87 was actually two new courts that were a replacement of the old courts. Okay, now who's
I
next
just had a
to
question.
speak?
Yeah, me. Just to get this clear, can't we just mirror the same, like do a motion without notice and do the exact same thing we're doing for this one and just do the Wallumbilla one? If they've got 60,000 to contribute, can't we split? Can't do that.
That's a line for another meeting.
Or for another meeting. I mean, but so we're not looking like we're playing one off to the other. Have 2 separate things. Like I just think the whole thing's a bit confusing up there at the moment.
Chair, in relation to the maths, I've just listened to the conversation, just to give you an understanding, is this motion as it presents is roughly about 50,000 a court. Even for the engine project, that was still about 45,000 a court.
So we're still just on the amendment here, though.
Yeah,
So
I'm sorry. Just trying to qualify.
Next.
you're up to speaker again.
Nothing. Apologies. Yeah.
Well, do we have a question, Councillor?
No, I haven't got a question. I just wanted to make a comment.
Well, if you wait that too, will your chance to speak? Does the mover wish? Who's next?
I actually have a question.
Right. Okay. Please.
Since we're speaking about costings, and I do know it's pretty hard just to sit here and say what other courts have been costed because we don't know to what level the foundation was. Through the chair to Director Matt, can you please tell me how you got to the figures and the quotes and what that process was? Because from what I've heard from an SDDA meeting, it's been quite extensive and the foundations are actually wrecked.
Yeah, through the chair and to the council, we've done an extensive consultation with a range of projects in the Maranoa. Obviously, the Roma, previous Roma construction and tennis courts there, and they've got 2 new courts going in very shortly. They've got the in-June as well, and various models of construction. But the key one for Surat is that there's a crossfall of 500 mil that needs to be reinforced with concrete. And we've had a technical expert look at the surface, and basically it needs 250 tonnes of 3.3 gravel, potentially from our pit to top up, and that would provide the best long-term solution. And I've also engaged with Tennis Queensland and another number of other experts, and roughly due to construction prices at the moment, the way they are, $50,000 a court is not unreasonable to construct, and that's without ancillary things such as rebound walls and fences and that sort of thing. So we think we've put up a realistic cost for this particular project that will meet the demands of current construction costs, the gravel that we have to order. And we've also probably catered for a bit of in-kind assistance to do demolition and that sort of thing as well. So it does range, depending on the core contractor as well, they can range in the type of service they provide. So we feel this is a reasonable cost for a forecourt upgrade without fencing.
Oh, without fencing. That was going to be my question, fencing and rebound wall.
Yeah, I mean, again, the contractors will vary with their pricing and what they can deliver. It's, based on the assessment, we feel that with a bit of in-kind community support getting behind this project, we feel that that's the way to go with, and you know, if we come up and deliver the project, say for $200,000, we might be able to include the fence in that particular, and some other things like basketball posts and that sort of thing. So we feel that's realistic.
Thank you.
Okay, does anyone wish to speak for the amendment? Councillor O'Neill.
I'll speak for the amendment. I think what Councillor Hancock has put forward addresses both the issue for Surat in terms of the upgrade, but also highlights that there is a need in Wallumbilla that isn't new to council, and that it will be considered at the next quarterly review, which is within weeks. All credit to the STDA for coming on board as a financial partner, and let's move this along as quickly as we can to see it come to fruition in Surat, and then have a look at what we can do in Wallumbilla. So I'm happy to support the amendment.
Okay, does someone wish to speak against the amendment?
Can I just maybe offer a comment? I'll say two things. One is that I am very, very mindful as councillors, we try to support every town in our region. And I'm very, very mindful that we advocate for every town and every community. And I would hate to think that those people at the Wallumbilla Town Improvement Group who for 2 years have been advocating and discussing, and even as last week's meeting, still saying, where is our tennis court? Is it possible, instead of saying investigate, which we've actually said 2 years ago we would investigate, we'd put on the unfunded project list, is it possible to say contribute towards the upgrade without a dollar value?
Well,
because
that's
we
up
know
to the mover of the
we've
amendment.
got LCRI funding. We have a dollar value for Surat, which I don't have an issue with, but I would like to think that the Wallumbilla community who look at that go, we also got to look in somewhere. Because the investigate...
Can we put consider the upgrade of the Wallumbilla Town's Court at the upcoming quarterly review?
Yeah.
Or
That captures it.
consider it, because all our hearts are to
Well, our
do
hearts
that.
are in the right
And
spot.
I've just heard that they've got $60,000. So
But no, they've got some fun.
They've got
yeah, but
funding.
whatever.
They've
But
got-
there's
they've
some
got
funding
them
to
at
go.
spending.
So
Yeah.
alls I do is want to be able to consider it on its own merit. Anyway, I'm
That's
putting
better
all
than
that.
That's better than investigate.
Contribute, because we might about.
Well, we don't know. The
We don't
money.
know.
So you'll have to check that the seconder of the amendment's happy with that.
Yeah, I'm happy.
Righto. Okay, now does anyone wish to speak for the amendment or against the amendment? That hasn't spoken.
Can I just suggest something? It depends what happens with this motion as to what I do. Just number 2 there. So we're actually approving this. So we're approving this based on the figures that Director Matt just gave us. The Mayor talked about, making savings and that sort of thing. So if we accept this, basically we're accepting the figures that have come from Director Matt, which are probably spot on, but maybe they're not. But in the end, the contract is going to be awarded to someone, in relation to that. So how does that work? You've got we're basically approving an increase up to a certain amount, and there's no room to move there. So
Look, through the chair, it's a question you're asking, because we really, the stage you're at is you haven't even got into discussion yet. You're at the amendment stage about whether you're
I'm wondering whether we
discussing
can
and
amend
considering
it.
the amendment. And
amend it. Sorry, Edwin.
Sorry?
Instead of having an approve, an increase in that, and investigate, we could do something there as well, and that'd be up to the mover, of course. Point 2. Do you see where I'm coming from? We're approving an increase. It's a fairly absolute
right.
thing.
That's right.
It's a very absolute thing, and we're stuck with it.
So through the chair, you're absolutely right, councillor. The way the recommendation is framed, and even the amendment, is that this is an active project, and should the motion be passed in any form today, including any of the amounts, is it would be actively implemented.
Yeah, well, it's there. Yeah, it's there and dusted, done and dusted. But I would, and this is up to Councillor Hancock and the seconder, do we look at that based on the fact that, there may be savings to be made in number 2? So consider an increase, or you could change that word, not approve, But
Through the chair, you could put an upper limit to up
Is
to.
Councillor Wood asking me if I'm accepting that?
Yes.
You can't amend the amendment.
Yeah,
Like
that's
if-
right, unless the
unless
person
they're happy, that's
agrees.
right.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
I'm asking the mover and the seconder if they're interested in that, that's all.
So, no, I won't accept that simply because, just because we're putting a figure of that amount of money for the project, it's up to that. So I am very confident that the director will be doing all he possibly can to bring it in on budget or under budget and try and find as many savings as he can. That
Well,
doesn't
up
mean
to
that he's
would be.
actually got to spend that amount of money. It just means that that's what we're putting it up to.
Well, it doesn't say that in number 2. Doesn't say that.
Yeah, but quite often we have stuff that comes in under budget and they just bring that to us and say, look, we've been able to do it under budget. So
I think number 2.
anyway, I don't accept that, Mr. Mayor. I'm really happy with the amendment as it stands.
Right.
Can we let the amendment be put, please?
Okay, all those in favour of the amendment? All those against?
Against.
Okay, that's 7-2 if I can call for a division. So that is the motion now. Okay, does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
You're the mover, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I will certainly speak to, obviously I don't agree with some of this, but I will speak to a large need for the Surat tennis courts to be upgraded. I would hope that we go and have a look at all our costs and make sure we're not profiting from doing this tennis upgrade. And if we can actually reduce our own costs so we're not profiting, we might find some money to do Wallumbilla. So that's what I would hope that obviously the director will be focusing on, and then we might be able to actually do the two towns courts, which is what the original motion was about, and I look forward to seeing if we can still get that done. Does anybody wish to speak against the motion or for the motion?
The second of it.
No, we already had the second.
Sorry, I didn't.
No.
No, I didn't think we did. We didn't get
Okay, sorry. Do we have how does that work?
Councillor Hancock seconded.
So through the chair, the amendment became the motion. You're now in discussion of that motion. And you then would
You
go to a
moved the
vote.
motion.
And then Councillor Hancock moved an amendment.
And that was one. And that now becomes the motion. And you're now in discussion of that motion.
Yeah.
And you would then go to a vote.
Well,
But the
mayor's
mayor
got
hasn't called for a seconder.
Seconder.
He never called.
Chair, my understanding, just looking at what's on the screen, and please,
We never
by
had a
all means, if
seconder up
I'm
there.
not correct, is that Councillor Hancock moved the
Amendment.
amendment, and it was seconded by you?
That's correct.
Yeah, but the original motion hasn't got a
The mayor
seconder.
moved the original motion.
We shouldn't have,
That's
we
right.
shouldn't have accepted the amendment into the debate
Until it was a
while
seconder.
you didn't have a seconder to your
That's
original
right.
motion.
Yeah,
So
that's
it's a
right.
vote.
Okay, I'm happy to second it.
Right, so Councillor Hancock seconds that. Okay, now does someone wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Guthrie?
I'd just like to say that in every community in the Maranoa, we have local community organisations that operate to advance their particular locality. And they do a great job and they do promote their local area. And we as councillors attend, we listen, we try to advocate, we try to encourage, we try to enable. I would have been very, very I'm going to vote for this. I would have been very, very disappointed to know that I have religiously gone to Wallumbilla Town Improvement Group meetings and listened to their request and know that they wrote to us in 2020 about upgrading their tennis court. And I'd hate to think that any group felt that they didn't have a voice, or they were disregarded, or then that they weren't prioritised in their request. To me, at least this is a step towards being able to go back hand on heart to two different localities and say, we have heard you. We are very mindful of the fact that your circumstances are different. The quality of the facilities that you're trying to upgrade are at varying degrees of deterioration. But I'd have to say I'm pleased to see that both groups are getting a look in, because it is about trying to share the money that we've got equitably or based on what we feel is fair. And I would think that this at least is sending a message to both groups that they are equally valued both locations, we equally want to try and enhance their facilities, and I think this at least is a step in the right direction.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak for the motion or against the motion?
I'd like to speak for the motion.
Please go ahead.
I am fully supportive of this motion. I have sat in on many, not only SDDA meetings, but other community meetings, and have heard the upset there is in the Surat community about the state of the Surat tennis courts. The Surat tennis courts upgrade, this just hasn't popped up. They have been on the decline for many, many years, and it has been a request of the community for many years. So this is not a new thing. 2 years ago, I did put up into the budget, which council accepted, to put some money towards the Surat tennis courts upgrade. And at any stage, Councillor Guthrie, you could have done the same for the Wallumbilla community, because I had written to council, as could any of us around the table. We could have brought that forward. And so I am glad that that's happening today for the Wallumbilla community, and that we're going to maybe have an opportunity to partner with them to give them the same outcome. But today, for me, that is a great outcome of this motion, but more importantly, this is about the Surat tennis court and the upgrade, and what the tennis club does to the fabric of society, what the tennis club means to that community, what the tennis club means to our children, who it is an embarrassment now, and we are the owners of that tennis club. The council owns that tennis club, and we have professionals who come in and who try and teach our children to play tennis on an unsafe tennis court. This is, it's an embarrassment for us. So for me, this is a very exciting project for the Surat community, one that the whole community can be involved in, and one that the whole community can access, and it will be a project that will be a legacy for many, 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 many years over in the Surat community. So I just want to thank the SDDA for their input financially, but also they made up of volunteers, and those volunteers have written grants. They've tried to seek outside funding. They've taken the time to seek quotes. They've taken the time to form a subcommittee. These volunteers are the fabric of our community, and I just want to thank them for their passion to see this project come through. And if this gets up today, I know that will be such a, they will really feel respected and supported by their council, who actually owns the facility that we're talking about.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? Does the mover wish to sum up?
No, thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I think it is about, I'm really glad that we actually got these proposal to get these courts done. You're right, it is Councillor Hancock, it is a community, and whilst we don't, I believe, have a tennis club at the moment, we do have people that want to play tennis and use the facility. It's a very great social thing. We've seen COVID affecting so much of, really having a lasting effect as far as social interaction, which I think we'll be seeing for generations to come. And, tennis is a great way to get together, and I'll look forward to, if this is passed, getting this completed, but also not forgetting that we need to get on and get a resolution for Wallumbilla, as it's been raised by the community group down there. Okay, on that note, we'll go to the vote.
Sorry, can I just say something? I'd just like
You've
to...
just summed up.
No, I've just summed up.
Sorry, you're right. Oh, sorry. Okay,
Yep.
got it.
Righto.
Yep.
On that
No
note,
worries.
we'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
Okay, 9-0. 14.1, conversion to freehold lot 115 on SP 302014 Warrego Highway, Roma. Do we have a mover? Councillor McMullen.
Mr Mayor, I'll move that council, one, notify the Department of Resources that council no longer requires the reserve known as lot 115 on SP 302014 for its gazetted purpose for gravel reserve. 2, request the Department of Resources to negotiate an arrangement with Axiom Petroleum Limited for continued access to the telecommunications tower on site. 3, advise the resident that council has no objection to their application for conversion to freehold of lot 115 on SP 302014 with the condition that easement ARP 14153 remain in place.
We have a seconder, councillor Ladbrook. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
9-0.
Which one?
ARP, is it?
ARP 141153.
Okay, so everyone understands that, we voted on that basis. Okay, so we'll go on to the next item if that's okay. 14.2, request for approval for advertisement, signage, Roma, Saleyards. I'd like to move the council call for expression of interest for the use of a small portion of Lot 2 on RP 128337 Saleyards spelling paddock for the purpose of placing and advertising signage on the following conditions. 1, licence to be 3 years with the option for a further 3 years. 2, the cost to install and maintain sign is at the cost of the applicant. 3, the successful applicant must comply with all relevant legislation and obtain all necessary development and other approvals. 4, the signage must not present a risk to livestock. The proposed design of the signage include livestock safety measures must be provided to council in the EOI response. 5, the signage is appropriate for viewing by all ages and be considerate of the operations of the Roma Saleyards, the cultural diversity of the community and its visitors. 6, a fee of $1,200 to be paid annually to council. And 7, I would add 7, a discontinuation clause be added if required for Saleyards operational area. Okay, we have a seconder, councillor Ladbrook.
So through the chair, say if land is required, is it?
So basically that is about if like things change and if it's issue from an operational, so discontinuation to be added if it's, so
If
we
it
could
is,
get wording
sure.
on that.
No, that's fine. And just if it is required, that's
Yeah,
probably
if
simple.
it is required for Saleyards operation. So like if it's not
Yes.
working out
Yes,
basically is
yeah.
what I'm
Or there's another
saying.
need, yeah, sure.
Okay, we have a seconded, councillor Taylor, do you have a question?
I do.
Please go
I
ahead.
just got a question on how we work out that it's $1,200 annually. Do we have a system or, I mean, I could see what it says for Saleyards advertisement on page 208. They're the prices, but how do we come up with those prices?
Look, through the chair, I'd have to take the question on notice and ask the staff. We're looking at those
Mr Mayor,
prices each year.
I think it's in line with what I know we've got others in, like Bassett Park, and I remember we've
That's what they're
discussed that.
charging, yeah.
I would say it's probably the same.
Do you need any more on that to
No,
make a
that's all
decision?
right. I just thought it was a bit cheap, that's all, but if that's our going rate, that must be our going rate.
When do we would look at that at budget time when our fees and charges?
Sure.
That's when you look at it.
It'll be too late for this one, won't it?
Yes, and through the chair, you did previously look at this in September, so.
It has been here before, unless, you know, there's a feeling to change.
That is their own sign though, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's their own
They're
sign.
just using the land.
It's
Yeah,
really a
yeah,
rental
fine.
for the
Yeah.
space.
Okay, does anyone wish to speak to the motion for or against? We're gonna go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
9-0.
And they've got it. Thank you.
14.3, regional signage audit, council signage.
Just through the chair, I'm just going to double check which one I'm looking at, make sure you've got, just might be on the wrong page myself.
I think the next one is the one with,
Oh, yeah, it is 233, apologies, yep.
Councillor Hancock.
Mr Mayor, I have a conflict of interest. Sorry, Cal, I put 14.4, it should be 14.3, sorry.
Is it the council signage you got a
It's a,
conflict?
yep, it's a council signage.
Send mine through to you, Kel, too, sorry.
Can I just ask a question? Why would you have a conflict on council signage?
So you'll see in a moment.
Okay.
Oh, I'll just read it because it's the same, Cal, it's just, I'd like to declare a conflict on item 14.4, description is regional signage, audit council signage. Declaring councillor is Councillor Joanne Hancock, party with interest is Stephen Hancock, which is my brother-in-law. Particulars of interest is Stephen is Vice President of the Mitchell Show Society and the signage for the Mitchell Showgrounds is in the report. Type of conflict is declarable conflict of interest. An action is, although I have a declarable conflict of interest, I do not believe a reasonable person could have a perception of bias as the signage is for the Mitchell Showgrounds, which is a council-owned facility. Therefore, I will choose to remain in the meeting. However, I will respect the decision of the meeting on whether I can remain and participate in the decision. He's Vice President and Stephen with a V, Kel.
Brother-in-law.
I have, yeah. And just above that, Stephen with a V too. Thanks.
And you've got to clarify, a related party
Lead one.
or
there,
close
yeah.
associate?
Oh, up the top, Stephen is my brother-in-law when it's, anyway.
I don't think that's in there.
You can tidy that up with the
Yep.
email one.
Okay,
Yeah, I got one.
So
so
someone
we
needs-
got to vote on,
Oh, yeah,
or do we do it one by one normally, I think?
Yeah.
Okay, so has anyone got wording? Councillor Taylor?
I believe that it's in the public interest that Councillor Hancock participates and votes on agenda item 14.3 because, okay,
Can you see?
I've lost it.
Because you can read them like big right.
Kel keeps
Where is
moving. Trying to catch up on other stuff.
Oh, yeah, because a reasonable person would trust that the decision is made in the public interest.
Okay, we have a seconder, Councillor McMullen. Anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
If you've got the same conflict, John, I don't think you can vote.
Oh.
If you've got-
yeah.
If you've got the same conflict, you can
Yes.
vote.
That's right, sorry.
Sorry.
Okay, we'll do it again then. All those in
Hang on,
favour?
you might have just explained.
Yes.
You won't be able to vote either.
Have you got a conflict?
You've got, maybe we do need to declare them all one by one and then
But then you can't, you can't
you've got to
vote on the
refer
other
it back
person.
to the rest of the councillors and you've
Yeah,
either
that's who's
included or
left,
not.
yeah.
Which is not going to be many.
Yes.
2, 3, 4. There'll be 4.
Mayor's not.
No, have you got a conflict
Yeah.
on
On
this
the
one?
next one.
On next one.
Oh.
I
I
got one.
I'm pretty sure it's the sporting groups, so.
Community group.
Community groups.
There is just on that, Mr Mayor, I noticed there's one council sign in the community group, the Amby Hall, should be in the, it's in the 14.4 and it should be in the 14.3.
Can we
Just better
vote?
just deal with this.
Yeah.
Righto, so we'll go and ask who can vote on the conflict. All those in favour?
Yes.
No.
So I can't vote.
If
Well,
you've
I
got
Are
a
you
show.
declaring?
Are you declaring anything on this one? No.
Oh.
Yeah, anyway, we'll
Councillor
go
Edwards,
with
is
it.
he there?
No.
So we'll do it again. All those in favour?
So there's no.
1,
basic
2,
voting?
3, 4, 5,
Yes.
6
6.
on
What's the next one then?
and the next one
Oh,
is councillor Burke.
sorry, oh, you're all over it. Sorry for the big text too there, I couldn't find how to shrink that bit. Item 14.3, description, regional audit, sign audit, council signage, declaring council as myself, party of interest myself. Particular of interest, I'm the president of Mitchell RSL and Combined Sports Club and the sign for the complex is in the report. It's a declarable conflict of interest. And although it's a declarable conflict of interest, I do not believe that a reasonable person could have a perception of bias. Therefore, I will choose to remain in the meeting. Will respect the decision of my fellow councillors to whether I can remain, vote, in decision making and voting.
Mr Mayor, I'll move that it is in the public interest that Councillor Burkett participates and votes on agenda item 14.3 because a reasonable person would trust that the decision is made in the public interest.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Guthrie, any opposition, anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
I just have one question.
Yes.
As far as Councillor Ladwell, there is stuff on Bassett Park in here.
Oh, we're in the middle of the vote, but
Yeah.
you're in the middle of a
I
vote.
didn't mean to say he's going to declare.
Well, he's
No.
voting.
Oh.
I'm just,
He's not going to declare.
He's not
oh, he's not
declaring.
going to
No.
declare?
No.
Okay.
But it's not one particular group, it's Bassett Park, the whole thing, you know, so it
Yeah.
might be wide. And,
You're voting.
yeah,
We
so
voted.
we did that and it was the same vote, I believe. You were the same way?
Yeah, 6-0.
6-0, yep, correct. Okay, do we have another conflict?
Sorry, I haven't sent this through because I'm now just going to be overcautious given what others have done. And mine is in relation to the sign that says Community Hub.
Page 237.
See you soon, sir.
So the description is the Regional Signage Audit Council signage. The declaring councillor is myself, Councillor Cameron O'Neill. The person with the interest is C.2 Maranoa. So the person of interest would be C.2 Maranoa, I imagine. Particulars of the interest, C.2 Maranoa leases the community hub, which is referenced in the report, albeit the signage for C.2 covers the community hub sign, so this is where I got a bit confused. The action is, I believe it is it's a declarable conflict of interest, and the action is although I have a declarable conflict of interest, I do not believe a reasonable person could have a perception of bias. Therefore, I will choose to remain in the meeting. However, I respect the decision of the meeting, or whether I can remain and participate in the decision.
Councillor O'Neill, through you, Chair, I'm just wondering, would it be yourself and C.2, and then in the particulars of interest, C.2 Maranoa leased the community hub, which is referenced in the report, and then say what connection you have with that? I'm just wondering.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
So to be,
I've got a similar thing with with the thing I've got, so, yeah.
myself and C.2 Maranoa leases the community hub, which is referenced in the board, of which I am a non-executive director.
Yep.
Thank you, Carl.
Okay, do we have anyone with some wording on that? Councillor Hancock?
Oh, I can't.
No,
I've got it.
Mr Mayor, I'll move
I was
it.
trying to save you, Jeff. You've been doing it all.
That is in the public interest that Councillor Burkett participates.
No,
Councillor,
O'Neill.
sorry, I'm jumping ahead of Kel, sorry. That is in the interest that Councillor O'Neill participates and votes on agenda item 14.3 because a reasonable person would trust that the decision is made in the public interest.
got a second.
Need a seconder.
Okay, we have a seconder, Councillor Guthrie.
Just, we're down, have we got enough without councillor?
Yeah, but still have 5.
It's the remaining councillors.
Okay, so
It's not a quorum.
if no one wishes to speak, we're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
5-0. Any other conflicts on 14.3?
Mr Mayor, I'll just bring up that point again now that we've got all that out of the way. If you've called for it.
Yeah.
We might have to, I don't think it's a big drama, but the Amby Hall is in the community, not the council, whereas the other halls are in the council one.
And through the chair, can I make just a suggestion is that when someone moves the motion, they actually just potentially just use the words include the Amby Hall.
In that,
In the recommendation.
oh, in that
so
first one,
that-
yeah, yep.
So
yep.
that you know that you're just dragging it out of the other one into this one.
Yep,
And we can say excluding Amby Hall in the other one.
excluding for the other one, yeah.
Yeah.
Councillor Burkett, do you want to move in the motion?
Yeah, I'll move it. I'd like to move the council note the findings of the regional signage audit for council operational facilities as presented, including the Amby Hall sign.
Okay, do we have a seconder for that motion?
Should I call it Shire Hall?
So who put their hand up?
Yeah, thanks,
Councillor Guthrie?
I'd like to move an amendment.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Councillor Burke, I just wonder if you consider, and I've lost my front page, so, I just note in the report that there is some signs that actually are looking pretty poor. And can I point them out to councillors, or do I need to? I just want to move an amendment to include in our budget, 23-24 budget, the upgrade to some of these signs. There's page 249, the Mungalala Recreation Grounds. It's 278.
What level is it though? Like, what does it say there is it poor or?
Poor and damaged.
Well, it looks terrible, and also, so the Mungalala sign, and it's those older signs that have got the real,
White.
so the in-June rodeo and cutting ground sign.
So you could put, and
anyone that-
council consider signs that require a upgrade to be considered in the 2023
Yeah.
budget.
In the
And then
category
there's-
of fair and below, or
Whole
poor.
idea of the exercise.
And there is the Warrego Sporting
Yeah.
Complex. It looks really bad. So,
That's, when this originally came to council, that's what I moved until we had to lay it on the table because of conflicts.
yeah, so basically, yeah, you're right, just to,
Ones that are in poor,
yeah,
category
include,
poor.
and consider in the 23-24 budget, the inclusion of signage which is rated
Yeah, in the poor category,
in the poor.
yeah,
Poor.
poor.
What,
Because fair above's all right by the look of the plan thing there.
yeah, if that's okay.
Now,
And would the
Would you
mover,
accept that amendment?
yeah, and I also want to add to it as well.
In the 2023 full budget, the upgrade of signage, which is rated, not include, like,
Yeah,
you want to do something with it.
yes.
Or
Upgrade
do we
of
need to get a
signage,
figure, a
which is
price
rated.
for that?
Well, that'll come back in
It'll
the
be
budget.
considered,
Yeah.
yeah.
Now, Kel, I just want to also add, I just noticed, and I don't know if this gives me a conflict or not, but I brought this up to the tourism woman that was on council when these big signs I wasn't on council, those big signs like out in front of the spa and they're at the weir, they've got all the information, every town's got them. There's phone numbers that are wrong, mine being one, which doesn't help me at all. But also businesses are deleted, like are gone. Can we look at getting that upgraded? Because people are coming to town and they might want to ring a mechanic and that mechanic's closed down for argument's sake.
just put it in the.
Inclusion of the upgrade and update of signage which is rated poor and out of date.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Put the word
So
update
I
in
shouldn't
there.
have to say,
which ones, no?
no, because I'd hate to think they're just talking about.
Community
What are they
notice
called,
boards,
those
yeah.
ones? If they're not in
Community
here, you
notice
need
boards,
to
I
put
think,
them
is
in.
that what you call them?
I'll just find her.
Yeah, there you go.
They're the tourism signs.
But there might be other signs out there, councillor Burkett, that
That's
have a
right.
phone number that might be wrong that
Yeah.
aren't tourism signs.
Just information signs,
Yeah.
that's what.
Well, put in there, information signs. The other thing is, to the mover, would you be willing also to include consultation, with the, relevant groups about the signs? Because they might want to make some changes to it. Some of these that might not have, like our council sign might not have exactly what it's needed. So instead of someone just putting a new sign gets put up, and they say, well, why didn't they ask us at the same time?
So
If
key-
there is stakeholders.
Key stakeholders, because groups would be more the second one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So key stakeholders,
Just in case we ask them and said, well, you never had a phone number on that,
Yeah.
people need it, or whatever that is.
yep.
Okay, do we have a seconder for that motion?
We did, it was me, wasn't it?
Councillor Guthrie, is Councillor Guthrie happy with those
I am.
changes?
Yeah, I am.
Well, that is the
You move an
motion then.
amendment, Joe, you just asked.
I asked if
Yeah.
you'd consider an
Yeah,
amendment. Yeah.
it wasn't a.
So does,
You said yes? Okay.
does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
No, thanks, Mr Mayor.
Does anyone wish to speak? Then we're going to the vote. Councillor O'Neill.
I do. This was raised with me by members of the community that we had signage across the region that had had better days. I know this has been a long process to get to where we are today because of laying on the table and conflicts and whatever, but we're here. And I think it's an important investment to make because it indicates to our community and the visitors that we take pride in our assets and our facilities, and people look at our signage, and when it's in poor condition, they remember it. And so I think this is a step in the right direction, and a welcome one that I think the community will be very pleased with.
Okay, I too will speak to this motion. I do support it. What I would like to see is, as we're rolling out operating locally, that the directors and their staff actually take note of their signs and look at working on the signage basically 12 months of the year, and looking at doing small amounts when it's cost effective to keep our signs, so it's not something that has to be brought to council to be remedied, because we are strategic, not operational. So I do hope that in the future this is sorted out and it doesn't have to come back to council as a part of general maintenance that we should be doing.
Mr Mayor,
Okay.
can I just make a comment? Can we have ambi, please, in the spelling?
Oh, just got to put a B in ambi, Kel. You might get a bit of conflict there.
Okay, does the mover wish to sum up?
No, thanks, Mr.
We'll
Alex.
go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
9-0.
Page 270.
Page 270. .4 regional signage audit, community group signage.
I've got a conflict.
Please go ahead. Which one's first?
Oh, whoever's first, yeah.
I think this one would have to be, you'd have to be out of the room for this. 14.4, regional signage audit, community group signage. Declaring council as Councillor Tyson Gold, a person with the interest related party is myself. Particulars of interest, I'm the president of Roma District Junior Soccer Association. Type of conflict, declarable conflict of interest.
Is it a declarable or a prescribed?
Well, it's definitely not a prescribed. I mean, what's the matter before us?
Sign.
Is replacing of signage.
Not on here. It's not. What's the resolution?
Well, it depends what someone moves. They might say replace the signs.
So then you don't have a conflict until you know what their resolution.
The reality is, when it came to the Saleyards, you had to receive a note report, but people were declaring prior to that too. So if the mayor wishes to declare, whether it's prescribed or declarable, that's a matter for you.
Well,
Because you have a matter at hand, and potentially there is no decision. However, there could be a decision, and it's still a matter for you.
well, anyway, I'll keep going. I'm president of Roma District Junior Soccer. Type of conflict, declarable conflict of interest. Leave the room while the matter is discussed and voted on. That's what I will do.
And just through the chair, just for completeness, you can decide to leave the room if it's a declarable conflict of interest, but and that's what you're determining. It's not a prescribed conflict of interest. It's just a declarable. You can leave the room in either case.
Yeah, well, I'm going to anyway, whether it's prescribed or not.
You can say declarable at this stage, because as Councillor O'Neill has raised, there's no decision to be made other than receive the interest, but you can leave, because you don't have that information now, you can leave the room even if it's declarable. That's still a way to deal with that issue.
And just councillors, what I'm going to put forward is we deal with all these conflicts separately, so people can be in the room for most of the decision.
Sorry, Mr Mayor.
What I'm going to put forward, well, we'll do the conflicts first, and then I'll put forward that we can deal with the ones with the conflicts separately, so people can be in the room for most of the ones.
Should you have done that first? Sorry, just.
No, I think.
I don't know. That makes it less messy for you.
Well, we'd have to break the whole.
It's only for now.
That's what you're intending to do, aren't you?
To deal with most of the report, because most of us don't have a conflict, and there's a few items we do have a conflict with. Depends what councillors do. Councillor Burkett, what are you?
Well, I was hoping to get an answer back because I'll go with what I've got, but just wanted to clarify whether there's an executive member. 14.4, description of regional sign order, community signage, declaring councillor.
Sorry, I'm confused. Did you finish yours and you're
Yeah,
going to leave
leave it
first?
alone.
Okay, sorry.
Declaring councillor himself, party with the interest is my father, Gary Burkett. Particulars of the interest, my father's on the executive committee for the Warrego Heritage Museum. Type of conflict is declarable conflict of interest, and the action, although it's a declarable conflict of interest, I do not believe that a reasonable person could have a perception of bias. Therefore, I will choose to remain in the meeting and respect the decision of my fellow councillors as to whether I can remain and participate in decision making and voting.
Okay. Do we have anyone with wording? Councillor Taylor.
I'd like to move that it is in the public interest that Councillor Burkett participates and votes on agenda item 14.4 because a reasonable person would trust the decision was made in the public interest.
Okay, we have a seconder, Councillor Guthrie. Okay, we're going to go to the vote if no one wants to speak. All those in favour? No, I'm actually out of the room.
Yes.
I'm not voting. So that means we've got 7. 0.
No, I can't vote either. I'm about to declare one.
There's also Wendy.
Yeah,
There's
that's
also
what I'm
three-
going to do. Yeah.
Oh, you need to take that vote again. Oh, not that I'm telling you what to do, I'm just...
Okay, we'll do the vote again.
All in favour?
All those in favour?
Oh, are you...
We're going to
No,
declare.
you.
What do I
You want to
vote?
tell?
You got to sign.
Still, look. What's it say?
Doesn't matter what it says, that's the Roma hostel and you're on the hostel.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see that.
We don't have a quorum.
You don't need one.
Oh, so, okay.
All those in favour? 1, 2, 3,
Yes.
4.
4.
You can tell us this first meeting of the year, isn't it?
So that's 4, wasn't it?
Yeah.
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 Who was that we voting for then? Let you state it.
No,
Councillor Burkett.
Councillor Burkett.
Was I still allowed to move that then?
And was I allowed to second it?
No, you couldn't have moved.
No, oh, we're going to have to withdraw that
Why
and...
can't you
Okay.
say-
Can we
You
Can
can
we
just
with-
delegate it to me.
Okay.
move to withdraw that?
Righto, so let's do that again. We haven't moved on to the next item, so.
Okay, I'm happy to move.
Right, so Councillor Hancock, well, the mover was not, yeah, that's right. So Councillor Hancock,
Um,
And the second
I
one is-
move that it is in the public interest that Councillor Burkett participates and votes on agenda item 14.4 because a reasonable person would trust that the decision is made in the public interest. And Councillor Guthrie can't second it either. No.
I'll second it, Mr Mayor.
okay, we've got a seconder. Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
4-0.
4-0. Okay, any other conflicts?
Well, yes.
Well, yeah.
Councillor O'Neill. Do you want to lay the item on the table?
No, we're going to do it.
So the item is 14.4, Regional Signage Audit Community Group. Signage declaring councillor as myself, Councillor Cameron O'Neill. Person with the interest is Roma Rural Student Hostel, of which I'm an executive member. Particulars of the interest, Roma Rural Student Hostel signage forms part of the report. The type of conflict is a declarable conflict of interest, and although I have a declarable conflict of interest, I do not believe a reasonable person could have a perception of bias. Therefore, I will choose to remain in the meeting. However, I will respect the decision of the meeting and whether I can remain and participate in the decision.
I'll move that it is in the public interest that... I'll move that it is in the public interest that Councillor O'Neill participates and votes on agenda item 14.4 because a reasonable person would trust that the decision is made in the public interest.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Ladbrook. And we're, right, no one wishes to speak, we're going to go to the vote. Oh, I'm not putting my hand up. So all those in favour?
Yes.
4-0. Do we have any other conflicts?
Was it 4 or 3?
Councillor Taylor and then Guthrie.
Item 14.4, regional signage audit community group signage. The declaring councillor is myself, Wendy Taylor. The person of interest or related parties, the Roma Rural Student Hostel, of which I'm an executive member. The particulars of interest, the Roma Rural Student Hostel signage forms part of the report. It's a declarable conflict of interest, and although I have a declarable conflict of interest, I do not believe a reasonable person could have a perception of bias. Therefore, I will choose to remain in the meeting. However, I will respect the decision of the meeting on whether I can remain and participate in the decision.
Okay, do we have someone with some wording? Councillor Hancock.
I move that it is in the public interest that Councillor Taylor participates and votes on the agenda item 14.4 because a reasonable person would trust that the decision is made in the public interest.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Ladbroke. Anyone wish to speak? We're going to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
4-0. Any other conflicts? Councillor Guthrie.
So I'm just waiting for it to be dropped. I'd like to declare a conflict of interest in agenda item 14.4 on the regional signage audit community group signage. The declaring councillor is myself, Councillor Julie Guthrie. The group, the related party is the Roma Rural Student Hostel, of which I'm an executive member. The particulars of the interest is that the Roma Rural Student Hostel signage forms part of the report. The type of conflict is declarable, and the action is that although I have a declarable conflict of interest, I do not believe a reasonable person could have a perception of bias. Therefore, I will choose to remain in the meeting. However, I will respect the decision of the meeting on whether I can remain and participate in the decision.
I'll move that.
Okay, we have a mover.
I'd like to move that it is in the public interest that Councillor Guthrie participates and votes on the agenda item number 14.4 because a reasonable person would trust that the decision would be made in the public interest.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Hancock. Well, on that note, if no one wishes to speak, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
4-0. Okay, any other conflicts? We're out of conflicts.
Yeah,
Right.
thank goodness. When you go to move, you've indicated that you will leave the room, so does the deputy mayor need to assume the chair? Just give him chair.
Yep. Okay, so I'll call the item and then
Exactly, thank you. 14.4, yeah.
14.4, regional signage audit, community group signage.
You've declared.
Yeah, I've declared, so I might leave. Quicker.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, the mayor's left the room, so item number 14.4, regional signage audit community group signage. Do I have a mover, please? Councillor Hancock.
I move that council note the findings of the regional signage audit for council community facilities as presented.
And excluding Ayrshire.
Excluding Ayrshire Hall. Thanks.
Exclude, okay. Councillor Neal.
Happy to second.
I just have
Any opposition?
a question.
Question, Councillor Ladbroke?
Yeah, so what will be the next move? You know, all these signs are all on here. So what is the next move? Do we, you know?
Through the chair, if this motion is passed, nothing.
No,
So
that's right.
this is.
So we just say that
We accept-
some of them need fixing and that's it, and just move on?
Just through the chair, unless you make a direction potentially like you did with the previous report that you look at it, considering an allocation as part of the 23-24 budget
They're
or this
not actually
budget.
councils, so you can't really,
Sorry?
they're not really council signs, are they?
Oh,
No, but
They
if
are.
we're- our council sign, surely,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, that's a
Council
point.
signs.
Council
These
signs.
are
No, through the,
community.
yeah, through the
These are
chair, you're
community
right.
signs.
We don't have that information really, do we? We don't know that.
So I've just
These are
moved,
owned
I've
by-
just moved that. That's
but these are owned by council.
some.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Brinker High Shore Ampy, that's a council sign.
but what I'm just saying, what's the next move?
Yes.
Can I?
We've done all this work.
Chair, let's not forget the reason this has been split up was because this was all together and people had conflicts,
Yeah.
and so community was put to one side and council was put to the other.
It's still council signs, but council
Yeah, I'd
buildings,
accept, but if you, the
But not
condition
all
of
of
them are
them.
pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The spa.
Ones
and
that
shit,
need-
caravan park.
Fixing, surely to God, there's a next step to
So
do
would-
something.
So wouldn't we just make it the same as the last one?
Yeah, well, that's what I thought.
Well, we
Otherwise,
could add-
we've done all this work,
Anything
like
that's
staff's
forward
done
or
all this
something
work
to
and
it.
we just let it
Can you
fly.
just change the same as, but just say, negotiate or communicate with the community groups involved?
In upgrading their signs.
And through the chair,
Otherwise
it
it's-
potentially is the flip where number
Yeah,
one is
stakeholders,
noting,
something.
receiving and noting the information. Two might be consult with the key stakeholders in relation to signage that's in poor condition. And three might be consider the allocation or
Someone needs
support,
to put
consider the
that to the
support.
mover, though.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
That was
exactly,
Councillor Hancock.
exactly. Yeah, you
I'd
can.
like to move an amendment to add consult with key stakeholders regarding, what's the word I want to, yeah, but this signage is not correct there, I don't believe.
Can I?
Billboards?
Can I make, can you?
Just show the wording from the last one,
that's fine.
please.
It's there.
Okay, and just, if you just want to copy, yep. If we could just. So we just need,
Excluding the Amby Shire Hall sign.
There is no Amby Shire Hall sign in it.
In it, yeah,
They're just cutting and pasting at the moment.
Oh, that's a double miss.
I think there's another one down at the last one too, but anyway, but
Don't
Oh,
complicate.
sorry,
it.
Cal, I needed all that other
Work it,
bit.
I'd say.
So
Yes,
all I
seven,
need,
Jeff.
all we need to do,
Changing of the word from line two.
You need to change including to excluding
Excluding.
Amby
In
Shire
line
Hall
two.
in
sign.
point one.
Yep.
Yep. And also we need to change regional signage audit for council to put community facilities. Findings, no, sorry, Cal, go back.
What about-
Community
Regional's
groups,
right.
community group signage. yeah.
Signage audit for, and it says council, change that to community, get rid of, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, get rid of that council operational in number one,
What do you think?
for community,
For community signage.
for community signage. As presented, excluding the Amby Shire Hall sign. And consider the 23-24 inclusion of the upgrade and update of signage which is rated in poor category or out of date information signs. The only difference with that is I think we need to actually put a full stop after Amby Shire Hall sign, make number 2 consult with the key stakeholders, and number 3 consider.
My
Consider.
that's right.
my question is, there's no Amby Shire Hall in this.
That was
yeah,
councillor Burkett.
277, page 277,
That's
down the bottom.
Can you put? which
Bring
is
your
the very
Shire Hall
last
Amby.
one?
Yeah, Brinker Shire Hall Amby, not Amby Shire Hall.
Oh, like,
I mean, is the name correct, is what I was asking.
oh, yeah.
Is it- That's what I was asking, is it,
We know what, I mean,
is it still officially called the Brinker Shire Hall Amby, that's what I'm
Yeah,
asking.
anyway, but no one calls it that.
Great.
Well, is it, I suppose the hard thing is I get you saying, Councillor McMillan, but we've called it Amby Shire Hall in the previous
Okay,
one,
okay.
so I guess it's just
No,
relating to that.
that'd be right.
And
Oh,
through
yeah,
the
no,
chair,
number 3.
you could put in brackets Baringa Shire Hall Amby, just to be absolutely certain if you're worried that someone else might pop up with a hall.
Well, that would say to me that if they've got to go and build a new sign that says Amby Shop, Amby.
Yeah, it's right to have the right term, right.
Yeah.
Warringah Shire Hall, Amby.
Amby,
Yep,
sorry,
sorry, Kel.
That was my bad.
Okay, and then that consider is number 3.
Yeah.
That's okay, Kel. It's still not playing. You can tidy that up, Kel.
We get it, yeah.
I'm happy to move that.
Yeah.
And I'm, as a seconder, I'm
Okay,
happy.
all good? So we've got a mover and a seconder. Does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. Just to say that, once again, I think this is timely that we look at our signage. I think if we're going to have signage, that it needs to be up to a standard. And so I think this is great to be able to work with. I'm not saying it's our responsibility to upgrade every sign in our community, but it'll be a great opportunity to work with stakeholders to see if the information that we're putting out there is correct.
Any opposition? Anyone else wish to speak? Mover wants to sum up? All good?
Oh, sorry,
Okay,
no.
I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0.
I'll go and get them there.
We got there with the signage in the end.
So good.
6 months.
I tell you what, you can tell this is our first meeting for the year.
I don't think it was mattered with that one, John. It was
No,
messy.
we're
It was
all a
pretty.
bit all over the shop today.
It was pretty messy.
Starting good from now, Danielle, we are. We're starting good. Lead us in the right direction.
Page 281.
Thank you. (281) 14.5 proposed amendment to Council's resolution OM 03 2022/20. Do we have a mover? Councillor Burkett.
I'd like to move the council amend item 1 of resolution OM/03.2022/20. 1, engage in external suppliers to make a development application for reconfiguring a lot, 7 lots into 2 lots for land at the Industrial Estate Road, Mitchell, described as lots 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 and 23 on CP 861824, and replaced with 1, engage in external suppliers to make a development application for reconfiguring a lot, 7 lots into 2 lots for land at Industrial Estate Road, Mitchell, described as lots 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22 and 23 on CP 861824.
We have a seconder, Councillor McMullen. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0.
No, Mr.
No, he wasn't here, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
You said 8-0.
Oh.
Yep. Okay, now,
6.
286, 14.6, Great Artesian Spa entry price review. Do we have a mover? Councillor Burkett.
I'd like to move the council approve the request received from the Bringer Action Group to increase the entry fees into the Great Artesian Spa complex as outlined in the report.
Okay, we have a seconder, Councillor McMullen. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak?
Yes, Mr Mayor, I think this is a good move. It's been, the same price has been in place for a number of years, and I think it's good the asset that they've created there. I think this is a good move.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? Then we'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
9-0. 14.7, request for waiving of planning application fees. I would like to move the council grant the waiver of the application fee of $525.30 for the development proposal located at 112 to 114 Mary Street, Mitchell, reference number 2022/20650, on economic development grounds for the Warrego area. Okay, do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Burkett.
Question.
Please go ahead, Councillor Hancock.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Major Danielle, what does the $525.30 cover? I guess, I guess it's probably administration time, but I just want to know why do we need that money?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the applicant has applied to change an existing development approval. So that requires the officers to do an assessment against the planning scheme and the other assessment benchmarks. So that fee covers the officer's time to complete the assessment on the change to the development approval.
And is that a fair workload on like this development where it's moving a shed? I guess I'm just looking for, I understand if it was a huge different development proposal, but just being this one with moving the orientation of the shed, is that a fair workload?
In this instance, it's a minor change application. There is a number of set criteria, so there's still a matter of going through all of those criteria, which does take a little bit of time, but in the scheme of assessing applications, this would certainly be at the lower end in terms of the resources needed.
And my last question, is, so you said it's a minor, so do we have a minor fee and then do we have a major fee, or is it the same fee no matter what?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, we have two separate fees. There's a minor and then another which caters for significant changes, and it's a lot higher fee.
And that's the fees that council set in their fees and charges?
That's
is the
correct.
minor fee that we set in their fees and charges?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'll speak to the motion. I do believe what I would like to see is, being Mayor of Maranoa Regional Council, that we see growth in all of our communities of the Maranoa, all communities. I do believe that it is getting harder to do things with interest rates going up, and there has been in the past stagnation in some of our smaller communities as far as development. And I think one of the things there is, how can council make it easier? We know that banks do make it a challenge with their lending practices. So anyone that's willing to have a go and put new infrastructure into our smaller towns, I'll certainly be supporting this on economic development grounds. And if they are not there in the future, other people have the opportunity to use those buildings and resources. So I'll certainly be supporting this. Okay, does anyone else wish to speak?
I've got a question.
Please go ahead.
Through the chair, Danielle, what is this common for approvals to seek a minor change application? Like how many minor applications would we see in a year? Relevant to the number of applications.
Yeah. Through you, Mr. Mayor, we do receive a few of them. Would you say 20%, 30%, Kate, possibly? Yeah, probably. Yeah. Probably around 20 to 30% of applicants will come back and seek changes, and it may be several years after they've got a development approval because things have changed and they want to do something a bit different if they haven't, developed immediately after getting their approval from council.
Because what I'm trying to grapple with, I can't recall ever seeing an approach to waive a minor change fee to council. Like, I can't recall that in my time on council. I'm not asking you to answer that, but it's not common for it to get to the council table.
Okay, so, but if that's not a question, we've got to keep going with the debate. Does someone wish to speak against the motion or for the motion? Against? Councillor Hancock?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'm really torn on this because I actually do want to see development happening. My issue is actually not about this. It's about the fact that in our fees and charges, we've already put in this price. And I think that we should not be making these decisions on individual people's circumstances. I think that we need to look at our fees and charges when it is the time to do that, and to get a full understanding on what it takes and the amount of work it takes with our minor and our major. I think that's the correct time to be looking at our fees. Once our fees is set, it is set. And so my concern is actually not about this application. I'd actually like to grant Mr Smith the fees. I understand that it seems fairly minor, just changing the direction of his shed. My issue is the people that haven't come to council and who have just paid it, and setting that precedence, and the fairness and equality of that across the region. And on that basis, that's why I can't support this today, is because I don't think we should be doing this on individual applications. I think we need to set that standard and stay to that standard, so that everybody is fair and equal across our community when they want to do a minor change to the application.
Someone wish to speak for the motion or against the motion? Okay, then I'll sum up. I do believe it's about economic development, and I'll be supporting this motion because it's very important to get economic development into our smaller communities. I do understand what the applicant has gone through, and I'll certainly be supporting this, and I believe this will send a positive tone in people, seeing that there is growth and things happening as far as economic development. On that note, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Through the chair, do we have a seconder?
Yeah, I was.
Yeah,
Councillor
thank you.
Burkett?
That's fine. Thank you. Apologies. I thought that might have been the case.
Okay, all those in favour again?
Yes.
All those against? 6-3 if I can call for a division.
Do we have to do a statement of reason?
Yeah.
Yeah, but we normally do a separate statement of reason.
That's right.
We're happy to use economic development, developing or encouraging economic development in Mitchell. If anybody else has got anything, they're welcome to add. Otherwise, we'll move on to the next one. Um, 14.8, minor change application for development approval for a material change of use, undefined use, domestic storage shed. I would like to move that to give a decision to the applicant to approve the proposed minor change decision, notice reference 2020/20650 for and do I need to have any other things in there? Is there any other wording for?
That could be, yes, this one.
Okay, I might change that actually. I'll give, I'd like to move that council give a decision notice to the applicant approving the proposed minor change to the decision notice reference 2022/20650 that amends the approved site plan from drawing 001 to drawing 002. Did you need that? Okay, do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Burkett, any opposition?
I have a question.
Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Didn't we have this come to us before because he wanted to put the shed in a certain position and we moved the rules for that, and now is it come back now that he wants to change it again? Am I on the right track here?
Yes, through you, Mr Mayor. The original proposal did come to council because of the size and scale of the shed on a residential block. The officer's recommendation was to set the shed back further from the road frontage. However, the applicant requested it be closer to the street.
Yeah.
So council did consider that, and this
Did we approve that, Daniel?
that was
Yeah.
approved.
Yeah.
So 10 metre setback from the front boundary
that's right.
is the current proposal. And now the applicant is seeking to change the proposal just to reorientate the building on the site. So it will have the longer side of the building will be presented to the street front. in this instance.
Okay, we got a seconder. I'll speak to the motion.
Can I just ask another question?
Yeah, please go ahead.
So your recommendation is to refuse the proposed, can I ask why?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct. When we completed the assessment, we can't support the proposal because the criteria that we consider looks at the residential amenity of the area and the character of the area. So being such a large-scale shed and so close to the street front, and now proposing to change that, so you've got 20 metres of a solid building wall presenting to the street with no openings or anything, it's not in character with the surrounding residential area. So
that's why you're refusing?
Yes.
Or suggesting? Thank you.
Councillor Guthrie.
Mr Mayor, just through you, can I just ask, so why is he swapping it around? Because we did give permission for it to come a lot closer to the roadway. We've gone through a long process last year. It's now just flipping it around, and the only thing I can see is that instead of having a narrow frontage, it's now going to be a wider frontage, so you'll drive past and just see a wall. Is that correct? Is there, sorry, let me ask the question. What was the given reason that he expressed for intending to switch it around that way there?
I believe his reason is personal preference to have the access to the building at the rear of the building, where ordinarily the planning scheme would seek to have your openings present to the street front.
So I'm just really trying to get my head around this because I want to vote with hand on heart the right one. So wasn't that something he would have been or expressing when he was putting in for the bringing it further forward? Like, I just can't get my head around. We went through and have given him permission to be put closer to the road. I don't have an issue with that. We had that as a done deal. But I just can't get my head around why at this late stage we're now saying let's now use the whole road or much of the road frontage to put the building that way. Why wasn't that part of the original? You may not be able to answer this. Why wasn't that presented in November last year when we were doing the discussions? I just don't understand why we're doing it this way here.
I don't think I can answer that question. His request is attached to the report and he hasn't provided a lot of reasoning behind it. He just states that he considered that it would be a better option to rotate the building.
So he's changed his mind, basically. I would infer that he's just.
And I believe it would be for privacy reasons as well, because, you know, when you open your shed up, everyone can see when they drive past what you're doing and what you got in there. So if you've got the back, no one sees what you're doing, and then all of a sudden, you know, like today's world, sometimes things disappear. So, you know, I think there'd be privacy reasons, perhaps, why I would imagine.
But and I'm just trying to tease it out, that all of this would have been current in his thinking when he was putting the application in last year.
Yeah, obviously,
Right, might have been up.
people have had change.
Well, he didn't say that, did he?
Doesn't he?
I'll wait till the debate, I'll say it also then.
Righto, I'll speak for this. I'm as I've said before, and we've already approved that there's no charge for this change application. One of the big things is that I think it's very good to have a modern shed going on the site in Mitchell. I've driven along the street. I can understand the arguments for and against, but I think the overwhelming argument, this is a benefit to Mitchell and a benefit to the street. You have to, obviously the planning scheme is a rigid document, but then you also actually have to have a look, and I think we made the right decision this time. I think if you've ever built a house, you see how many changes when you do that. This is just a change that the applicant has made, and I'll certainly be supporting this based on economic development grounds. Does anyone wish to speak against the motion?
Mr Mayor, can I just ask another question? I'm
Please
still getting
go
my head around this. So if this is not agreed to, he still builds his shed. He just builds it on the way that we agreed to last year, which is actually a different configuration.
That's correct.
And I just got a really quick one as well. But he's still doing 10 metres off the front. Yeah.
Yes. Just to that point, Councillor Guthrie, he may not build the shed. He has an approval to build a shed, but he may not build the shed.
We can't assume that in here.
But we don't know. So I don't think we can say he will still build the shed.
He's got
No, I
approval
didn't
to
say
build
that.
the shed.
Approval,
I
but
was
he
just
may
trying
not.
to tease out, Mr Mayor,
Yeah.
that should, depending on how this actually gets voted on, regardless, he still has an application that we approved last year to build a shed. The ball will be in his court as to what he does.
Yeah.
But he currently has approval.
Okay, Councillor Ladbroke, do you have a question?
No.
Righto, does no one want to speak against? So Councillor Burke, would you like to speak for the motion?
Yes, Mr Mayor, I'll be supporting this. It is reconfiguring and takes up another 4 metres, but there's still a 13 metre space to get down either side. To me, I'd say he's swinging around the western sun would be one key thing. Like anyone that likes to work in a shed doesn't like to work in the sun. I do agree with the privacy. There isn't any continuity with house width, setbacks or anything in that street. There's not one that would be the same. I still, maybe he might put some trees up or something at the front. I think that'll take that away. But I think there's existing sheds in the town that are probably closer and probably take up as much room in there. So, yeah, I'll be supporting this. I'd hate to see this get knocked back for this reason. So,
can I ask to Councillor Burkett, are you comfortable that it won't affect the amenity of the street compared to what it is there now, as
No.
you live in that town?
yeah, no.
If
I
you
don't think
live
so.
next door to it, that
Yeah.
shed.
If they live next, there's people with 2 metre high or colour-blind fences either side, like on one side. So people
Okay,
could say that's an intrusive thing too. So I think it's people's opinion. Like none of the neighbours complained initially to start with. So
okay, so we'll keep going. Does anyone wish to speak against the motion or for the motion? I'll sum up and I'll ask councillors to consider future economic development in Mitchell. As I said, I've been down the street. I believe we made the right decision last time. I would ask councillors to consider being excited about people making these developments in Mitchell and growing Mitchell. We know that there's also some new houses that have come to Mitchell. We need to do everything we can to make it happen, and I think this is a reasonable request by the applicant, and I'll certainly be supporting this as a council that's positive in helping requests that are brought through, especially on compassionate and also economic development grounds. So on that note, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
All those against? 8-1 if I can call for a division. Okay, so we will break for lunch and...
Maybe we could just finish this open.
Okay,
Run the reports.
okay, thank you.
thanks,
Thanks very much.
Okay, 17.1, mobile slasher fitting of blowers. Do we have a mover? Councillor McMullen.
I'll move that a report be prepared for an upcoming meeting, council meeting, providing costs to purchase and fit blowers to council slashers.
I'll second that. Do we have any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak?
Mr Mayor, I'd just like to say the biosecurity consultation meetings we had in the 4 different areas. Every one of them raised, I know it's in the report, everyone raised about the slashers, and I'm going back to 12 months ago when
Director Norm.
Mr Norm Garsden was the director of Mitchell. He raised this at Bringo Action Group one night, and he was involved in it some years ago at Clifton, Whittingham. I've had a quick look around on the sites and that, so everyone, as I said, is worried about the slash or the carrying of the waste, the seeds and that. So I think we need to get stuck into this. I'm confident it'll come back in the draft plan for the biosecurity plan for council to endorse. So it'll be a recommendation.
Okay, anyone else wish to speak? I'll certainly speak. I congratulate the Deputy Mayor bringing this forward and Councillor Guthrie that's mentioned it. I do think this is very important to leave the seeds where that they are found, and I think looking forward to how we can implement that future after getting the report back and looking at budget costs and so forth. Okay, so on that note,
Just one question through to the CEO. How long would this take to
Through the chair, I really can't say, probably maybe maximum 3 meetings. Look, what I can say is that we've got a biosecurity draft being developed within the next couple of months, and this could potentially be a very good outcome for that.
Hopefully we'd have some sort of a indication on this prior to the draft coming to council.
And certainly it's not exclusive of each other.
Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to speak? Does the mayor wish to sum up?
No, thanks, Mr Mayor.
We'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
9-0. 17.2, Riversleigh Road, access, Ballaroo, Queensland. I'd like to move the report.
Mr Mayor, no Ballaroo in it.
No, I don't know where the Ballaroo comes
Where'd you
from.
get that? Oh, up there, sorry, I wasn't. Riversleigh Road. Oh, my area might be called Ballaroo.
Yeah.
To the director, is Ballaroo a locality area? It is.
That's correct, Mr Mayor.
Thank you.
Locality region of the.
Yep. Okay, yeah, Riversleigh Road, access Ballaroo, Queensland. I'd like to move the report be prepared for an upcoming council meeting addressing the quest for Riversleigh Road access to be placed on the road register and maintained regularly, engaging with all stakeholders. And I think that's all.
Mr Mayor, can I ask the Deputy Director to give us a report, because he has been consulting with some
Sure.
of the landholders already in negotiations.
Hey, Mr.
G'day, welcome to 2024.
23.
2023.
Yeah,
Hey, right,
just
thank-
press forward.
This Mayor Gold, are we close to lunch?
We did ask for these
Yeah.
two reports to be done.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Like, not a problem with the report. That's pretty straightforward. Have been dealing with a couple of the residents down there on it. And it's not a complication. It's just worth noting, like, that last 3K of the existing road's already off alignment. So I suppose any extension, which we'll outline in the report, probably needs to look at addressing getting the road reserve in the right spot, because we're all familiar with what happens if we've got big long lengths outside the road reserve. There can be issues there. So I just more wanted to note that just that last 3K is already off alignment. So, but it says in there about consulting. We'll just continue to do that and get both the parties' input on that to bring back. So, but yeah.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Hancock. Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
9-0. We'll break for lunch, back in an hour. Okay, we'll keep going. L1, consultation for broadening investment options. Do we have a mover? Councillor Taylor.
I'd like to move that council endorse a letter of support for the QIC proposal prepared by LGAQ by the deadline 25th of January 2023.
Yeah, just clarifying that, you're not you're saying you're supportive that if they want to do it, but you're not supporting council doing it?
No.
No.
We are supporting LGAQ.
Yeah, been able to do it. I'll second that.
That deadline is today.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, does anyone wish to speak to it?
No.
I'll speak to it. Certainly I'm supportive that if other councils wish to do this, I'm not supportive of actually doing it for our council, but I certainly wouldn't want to stop anyone else doing it for their council, as the councillors need to look at the risks that they take on. So, and does anyone else wish to speak? On that note, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
9-0. Okay, we're on to the closed.
No, we finished
Just
the
one more
last
page. 14.
L2, page 14.
Page 14.
Oh, page 14.
Yep.
Oh, this fella.
Yep.
Righto, there's another one.
I got a conflict when you get there, Mr Mayor.
Righto. Okay, L2, proposed amendments to 22-23 capital project, Bindango Road gravel renewal works. Councillor McMullen.
I did send an email, Kel, it was a bit late, they want to read it yesterday afternoon. Same as last time, Kelly, just gonna ask to stay in the room I did last time, it was better to be consistent. Yeah, but, I didn't have it set out properly though. Well, I thought I did.
No.
Oh, sorry, Kel. It's still in drafts, it didn't go, sorry. I didn't get it. You want me to send it now?
Well, I'll put the template up and you
Yeah.
can
Sorry about that, I just did it late this afternoon, in a hurry.
Didn't send her.
We'll just adjourn for a minute. Councillor McMullen.
Mr Mayor, I'd like to declare a conflict of interest in L2, proposed amendment to 2022-23 capital projects, Bindango Road, gravel, renewal works. Declaring councils, myself, Jeff McMullen, persons of interest, myself and my partner, Jean Clifford. Particulars of interest, we own a vacant block on Bindango Road. Type of conflict, declarable conflict of interest. The actions, although I have a declarable conflict of interest, I do not believe a reasonable person would have a perception of bias. Therefore, I would choose to remain in the meeting. However, I will respect the decision of the meeting on whether I can remain and participate in the decision.
Councillor McMullen, can I ask how far on that road away from where?
Long way.
Long way.
This amendment is still, when you get into the middle of the road, it'll still be black soil, so it's wet. Like, we can go both ways, we'll have to go around the bitumen.
So it doesn't benefit directly your.
Because we still won't be able to get through on the wet on that road.
Right, okay. Okay, do we have anyone with wording?
I'll go, if you like.
Well, I think councillor Taylor was first.
Doesn't really matter. I'd like to move that it's in the public interest that councillor McMullen participates and votes on agenda item L2, because a reasonable person would trust that the decision is made in the public interest.
We have a seconder, councillor Ladbrook. Anyone wish to speak? We're going to vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0. Okay, L2, proposed amendment to 2022-23 capital project, Bindango Road, gravel renewal works. Do we have a mover? Well, I think councillor Burkett.
Too slow, mate. I'd like to move the council endorse an amendment to the location of the Bindango Road gravel resheet project approved as part of the 2022-23 capital works program to change 0.0060 kilometres to 2.50 kilometres.
Okay, we have a second, councillor McMullen. Does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
No, thanks.
Does anyone wish to speak? Councillor McMullen.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, thanks Deputy Director for looking at this particular change in the projects to help the people mentioned in the report. They are the only, will have at this point in time, the only ones that don't have any gravel access to their property at all. So, and as the director worked out, it's probably a better option to go this way anyway.
Yeah. Just question to the director, is that the long-standing CR that's been in about trying to get access back to, you know, the Meadowbank turnoff?
Through you, Mr Mayor, yeah, that's correct. Yep. So it's, the original project was approved to go from the property access back towards Hodson, but there's a big low-lying drain in there, so the recommendation is actually to switch it from the property access back towards Meadowbank. Slightly longer, but far more resilient road. We don't have to cross that gully and that. So the report outlined that we're probably wasting the investment if we went the other way, because it's probably going to be cut through that low area anyway. And the main priority, obviously, with gravel is always that wet weather immunity. So.
Yeah.
Mr Mayor, you might remember last term, this particular section now that we're referring to, we had that issue where over the time that one inverter was about a metre deep and water laid in for months, so we got that fixed, but now this will resolve that whole section for the Robinsons from their gate to the bitumen.
Yeah, I remember it was a long, I'll speak to the motion. I'm certainly supporting this. I remember frustration of the residents, and they've been waiting quite a long time. I do think that, you know, in those times it was very hard to get more than, you know, 100 metres, and I'm really glad that this is actually a massive improvement. So I believe this will be something very good for the residents. And congratulations to the officers and staff that have come up with this solution. Does anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Does the mover wish to sum up? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
9-0.
Thank you, Cameron.
Thanks, Cameron. Thank you.
Okay, now, do we have any conflicts before we go into closed?
Yeah, I've got one.
Please go ahead.
Declaration of interest, item C5. Description of scholarship program for medical students. Declaring councillor is Mark Edwards, person with the interest, related party and close associate. Other relationship is myself and Leichhardt Group. Particulars of interest. So I and the Leichhardt Group have a professional relationship with a person named in the report who I can't reveal for professional reasons, and out of caution I've declared my interest. Type of conflict, declarable conflict of interest action. Although I have a declarable conflict of interest, I do not believe a reasonable person could have a perception of bias, therefore I will choose to remain in the meeting. However, I will respect the decision of the meeting on whether I can remain and participate in the decision.
Okay, Councillor Ladbroke.
That it is in the public interest that Councillor Edwards participates and votes on the agenda item C5, because a responsible person would trust that the decision made is made in the public interest.
Yeah, is it reasonable person? You might have
He'd
said
have to be
responsible.
reasonable, Mr. Edwards, wouldn't he? Really?
No, but yeah, it's reasonable person. You happy with that? Not
Yes.
responsible?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Reasonable, sorry.
Okay. Yeah, please go ahead.
It's really hard to know when you don't know, like, Councillor Edwards can't name the conflict really, can he?
No.
Makes it a bit tough, doesn't it? To know whether he does or he doesn't, or should or shouldn't be in there.
Well, we might be able to ask the question to the councillor. Do you believe that the person with that you have the relationship is going to financially benefit from this report?
No.
Or just mentioned in it?
Okay.
Yeah, you just mentioned. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Conflicts aren't just defined by financial elements, though.
No, but that is also a fairly big one.
I think the matter and the interest are a bit wide too. So I think it's matter and the interest are a bit wide. Wide, you know.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Burkett. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? All those against?
You can't vote anyway.
We won. Yeah, did you vote, Councillor O'Neill?
No, I'm abstaining.
Okay, so, well, that's taken as a vote in the negative, I believe. So that means it's 7-1 if I can call for a division. And, right, so we've done that. Any other conflicts? Councillor Guthrie.
I'm not actually declaring a new conflict. I'm just reminding everybody that previously, with regard to C2 and C3, that I've already made my declaration. It's just being revisited again.
Righto, okay. Okay, no other conflicts, then do we have someone to move into closed?
And sorry, Councillor Guthrie, you're reminding us then that you're leaving the room
Yes.
on those matters,
Yep,
yeah?
as I have done previously, because this is the same one that was held over from the last meeting.
Just in case someone's watching to understand
It
what
wasn't
you're
held
doing.
over.
It was, yes, it was held to the.
Somewhere.
We
yeah,
moved
it's
to lay it
laid on the table.
Oh, sorry.
I move we go into close.
Okay, so would you like to read the...
Oh,
A bit more than that.
forgot about that. Don't lose respect for that distance. Where am I? In accordance accordance with the provisions of section 254J3 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the council resolved to close the meeting to the public to discuss confidential items that its councillors consider is necessary to close the meeting. In accordance with section 254J5 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the following table provides the matters to be discussed, an overview of what is to be discussed while the meeting is closed. C1, confirmation of council's funding commitment to building our region's round 6 projects. C2, request for additional concession on rates of loss of capping 150200357. C3, request for additional concession on rates for loss of capping 150200548. C4, Denton Court subdivision in June request. C5, scholarship program for medical students. C6, 236 Edward Street, North Roma. C7, Lot 87 Crown Plan WAL 53328, request to effect sale. C8, proposed drainage structure Gunnerwan West Road. C9 Infrastructure Agreement reference 2022/20658.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor McMullen, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
9-0. Security camera utilisation policy. Do we have a mover, or did we have a mover?
We laid it on the table.
Yeah, you moved it and councillor Ladbrook seconded it, and then I
Righto.
moved it to lay it on the table. So.
Okay, so everyone's got the updated, so it'll be on that. Well, if no one wishes to speak, we're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
9-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Easy done.
Okay, C1, confirmation of council funding commitment to building our region's round 6 projects. Councillor O'Neill.
I'll move the Council 1 provide confirmation of the following items of the Department of State Development, Infrastructure, Local Government and Planning in relation to the approved projects and is required by the Department for milestone reporting purposes. A, Council's contribution of 10% as previous resolution OM 10.2021-133 is included in the 2022-23 budget for approved projects. B, Council's commitment to delivering the projects, and C, acknowledgement of Council's responsibility for any funding shortfall if project costs change.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Guthrie. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
9-0. C2. C2, request for additional concession on rates loss of capping 150200357.
Mr Mayor, I have a previously declared.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Guthrie. Councillor Guthrie has left the room. Do we have a mover? Councillor McMullen.
Mr Mayor, I'll move that council decline the request for a further reduction due to the loss of capping.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Taylor, any opposition? I'll speak in opposition. Does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
Yeah, Mr Mayor, I just think, I believe we should be sticking to our policy, sticking to this, in line with our policy. Yeah.
Okay, I'll speak against the motion. I believe there's some different circumstances in this one, and that's why I believe we should have a different approach then, so I won't be supporting the recommendation, or not the recommendation, the motion here today. Does anyone wish to speak for the motion? Councillor Taylor?
I too am with the deputy on this one. I think we've got a policy that says what it says, and I think we should stick with it. I think we've done the right thing by them in the past, and I think we should just stick to what we've got in our policy.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor O'Neill.
I'll be supporting the recommendation put by the Deputy Mayor. I don't believe there's any real difference to this request from other requests that we've had over the last 6 to 12 months. I strongly argue that there is no difference. I do think that this will trigger a much broader conversation that we need to have, a mature conversation around capping and what it means for our region's ratepayers. We need to have an open and honest conversation, obviously amongst ourselves, but with the broader community as well, in terms of capping, what it is, why it was introduced, and a process to get to a point where we no longer have to have it as part of the rating scenarios for council. But on this basis, I will be supporting the Deputy Mayor's resolution.
Does anyone else wish to speak against or for the motion? Does the Mayor wish to sum up?
Look, Mr Mayor, I also would like to add that should we reduce the fee, the rating, extra rates due to the capping beyond our 65%, we will open up a big can of worms for all the others that we've given reductions up to the 65%.
Okay, on that note, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
All those against? 7-1 if I can call for a division. C3. C3, request for additional concession on rates for loss of capping on 150-20548. Councillor McMullen.
I'll move that council decline the request for a further reduction due to the loss of capping.
Yeah, do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Hancock. Any opposition? I'll speak in opposition. Does the move wish to speak to the motion?
Yeah, once again, Mr Mayor, we need to stick to our policy, I believe. We've introduced the policy for the benefit of this, and I strongly recommend it in that we start taking the steps to get rid of capping at the next budget meeting.
Okay, I'll speak in against the motion. Certainly believe there's some extenuating circumstances, and I do think we need to have some flexibility even though we have a policy. I also believe that capping is a safeguard against large rate increases, so I certainly will not be supporting reducing of capping. I would certainly like to see a situation where capping is not needed because the rates categories create that consistency. But when we have valuations going all over the place, I believe the ratepayers of the Maranoa understand that the only thing that's saving large increases in rates is having capping. Does anyone else wish to speak for the motion? Councillor Hancock.
Yeah, I'll speak for the motion. I support this because I do think that we, as council, put in a policy in place, and that was to help us decide what concession we will give on the rates due to the loss of capping. And we did this policy because we were doing it on an ad hoc basis on individual people's circumstances, and it wasn't fair and equitable across the region. That's why I put in a policy, and I think we should stick to our policy because I agree, as Deputy Mayor said on the last one, that we will open a can of worms and to consider this request for this person, we would then have to go back and reconsider all the others. So I think we should stick to our policy. We put it in place for a reason.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor O'Neill.
I'll be supporting the recommendation put by the Deputy Mayor. on similar lines, if not identical to the previous recommendation from the previous report. We've got a policy in place. That policy was put in place and adopted by Council to mitigate the impact of the loss of capping that has been occurring, and because of the introduction of the capping and circumstances where properties have been bought or have been passed on to the next generation, they're being caught up in circumstances where they're seeing significantly increased rate notices because of the high rate and the dollar. So I think we need to back ourselves here. We've put a policy in place. It's consistent with the requests that have come to council since the middle of last year. It means that we're not doing it on an ad hoc basis. There is consistency and supporting the Deputy Mayor's recommendation here today. The resolution is in line with that policy.
Does anyone else wish to speak?
Can I just ask a question?
Please go ahead.
Just what I'm looking at here on the screen's not telling me which one I'm actually voting on. There's one due to some situation which was not the same as the other one.
Yeah,
I know it's C3, but
C3
there was one that was something to do with, and I can't say it on here, but they were both different, I thought. I'm just unsure of which one I'm voting on here.
Well, C3.
I'm sorry. Is it some sort of planning? I'm not sure.
Some sort of what?
You understand where I'm coming from?
It's the same as the last one.
No, it's not. There were
two
different situations. No, one was because of something else, and the other one was because of something completely different. But anyway, I just don't know which one this is. I'm sorry, just based on what I'm looking at here.
Well, it's the opposite to the one you just voted on, because you just voted on one.
We'll just adjourn for a minute.
Sorry, that doesn't help me.
We'll just adjourn for a minute to get the information. On with the meeting. We'll keep going with the meeting. C3. Who wished to speak that hasn't spoken yet?
We had Ryan Hancock. We've had O'Neill.
Righto. Okay. Does the mover wish to sum up?
No, thanks, Mr Mayor.
We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? All those against?
Against.
Okay, so that's 6-2, sorry, I should say. And if I can call for a division. Okay, C4, Denton Court subdivision in June. We'll just get Councillor Guthrie back. Okay, do we have does someone want to lay this on the table?
Mayor, I move that this lay on the table until the next ordinary meeting of council.
All those in favour? 9-0. C5, Scholarship Program for Medical Students. Councillor O'Neill.
I move that this lays on the table until an ordinary meeting after. This lay on the table until after a councillor briefing has been undertaken with key stakeholders.
Okay, all those in favour?
Yeah.
No, 9-0. C6,
yes.
Okay, C6 236 Edward Street, Roma. I'd like to move that council receive and note the report by way of follow-up and actioning of Council Resolution OM/12. Please go ahead, Councillor Edwards.
I think it's just...
Righto, I'll keep going. OM/12.2022/55 and 2, call for expressions of interest for the sale of 236 Edward Street, Roma, including advising through advertising the expression of interest through the Maranoa Today newspaper. And also
And other,
Social media?
and other outlets.
and other media, and other social media outlets. And 3.
That is true.
Okay, well, 4 would be advise any interested parties that have contacted council about the property of the planned expressions of interest. We have a seconder, Councillor Ladbrook. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
9-0. C7, lot 87 on Crown Plan WAL 53328, request for effect.
Just through the
Sale.
chair, I just note, with the sale of the property, was there a seconder to that motion,
Ladbroke,
Kelly?
Councillor
Yeah,
Ladbroke.
Councillor Ladbrook.
Beautiful, thank you, just
Yeah, I think it's frozen as a go.
would make,
Yeah, nothing.
But obviously not.
That's okay.
no, that's
Thought she looked a
fine.
bit cool, calm.
It's
for
just
something
one of
else.
those ones where you don't want to be uncertain.
Okay, do we have a mover on this one?
I can wait for Kel, so. So we,
Or we just punch on and
we've got to see what's up with it.
do you have to if we're hearing it?
Can we hear what's on the Kel's type?
We're in
If
the
someone
room.
reads it out.
Well, what are we?
I've got a motion for this one.
I thought we, oh, okay.
Right, well, Councillor Hancock, did you want to read your motion?
I move that council receive and note the report and not proceed with the request.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor McMullen. Any,
Excuse me, Chair, what motion is this? It's
So-
frozen, my screen.
Yes,
Oh, right.
It's
yes,
frozen.
certainly, it's on
C7.
C7, page 46.
Councillor Hancock wanted to repeat.
Yep. And councillor Edwards, I just moved that council receive and note the report and not proceed with the request.
Yeah, what's the heading of the report, please?
Lot 87 Crown Plan WAL 53328.
Page
Okay.
46, C7.
Yeah.
Okay, we had a seconder for that. Does anyone wish to speak to it? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
9-0.
Kel, you're right to keep record, yeah, okay, yeah. Who was the seconder there?
Councillor Tucker.
You went, that's right.
Oh, well,
That's
sorry.
right. I didn't write it down, I'm trying to go.
That's right, you cancel it.
Kel, you got that? You're right.
Page 74.
Page 74.
Page 74, C8, proposed drainage structure, Gunnerwin West. Do we have a mover? I'd like to move the council, one, acknowledge that in 2020 council included the environmental study with Red Leaf Environmental for $10,472 as part of the 2020-21 budget. However, did not progress the study at the time. 2, progress the study immediately with funding of up to $12,000 from the 2022-23 budget up to the amount as described in option 1 to better inform the culvert design process. 3, that this be funded from work order 22960. Do we have a seconder? Councillor McMullen, does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
9-0. C.9 Infrastructure Agreement, reference 2022/20658. Do we have a mover? Councillor Burkett.
I'd like to move that Council 1 repeal resolution OM/12.2022/56 and 2, prepare and present a draft infrastructure agreement and offer to the applicant relating to the acquisition of proposed Lot 4 and Lot 5 and the assessment of development application 2022/20658, subject to the terms detailed in the officer's report.
Okay, we have a seconder. Councillor Guthrie, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
9-0. Any further business, councillors?
Not today.
Okay, then on that note, I'll close the meeting at 5:32 PM and thank you for your attendance.
What's that?